Jaquan wrote, "There is a greater darkness than the one we fight. It is the darkness of the soul that has lost its way. The war we fight is not against powers and principalities. It is against chaos and despair."
Repeat, they're coming through! This is Earth Alliance Station Babylon 5. They're all over the place! When the lightning starts flashing, there'll be no hiding place.
If you go to Zahadu, you will die.
Oh yeah, this is Sci Fi Snob, and this is the Toplofty Lounge. We're in for a smooth show for you today. Oh yeah, baby. In 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, baby. Yeah, here we go. In 11, 10, 9. Oh yeah, baby. Here we come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Top Lofty Lounge, episode 76. Conversations for the Elevated. Welcome to all my fellow snobs, and don't forget to ask about our $1 million guarantee. I am your host, Science Fiction Snob. This week on the program, we're going to be talking about some very well-known science fiction movies. Are they really sci-fi? We're going to have a discussion about that, and we're going to talk, and I'm going to tell Cam why he's wrong. Yeah. But before we do that, speaking of Cam, he is the meatbag to my clanker. Please welcome my co-host, Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, let's say hello. The chat's getting going early.
Yeah.
Who's in the chat? They're
10?
already discussing which is what and where.
12 people watching. My God.
Right on. That's excellent. We like to have lots of people.
It must be.
Umbras is in the chat. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Milk Toast. Who else do I see? Oh, you guys got into it early. Before the show even started. Greg C. Welcome, Greg. Snugs, of course. Cam's nemesis. Snugs is in the chat. Death Angel Shadow. Good to see you, Jeff. Weatherman. Would you want to say something, Cam?
No, I was just saying Snuggy, obviously my best friend.
Oh, right. Yes. Best friend / nemesis. Weatherman's in the chat. Good to see you, Weatherman. Who else? I think that's it. Anyone else in there? Oh, James is here. Good to see you, James. Oh, and Dave, too. Dave's in the chat. Good to see you, Dave, one of our regulars as well. And James. PB. Oh, all hail Space King. Yes, all hail Space King. Praise be to Space King. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. All right, that's all. Anyone else is hiding, being a lurker. That's okay. Feel free to lurk if you so wish. Nothing wrong with that.
You know, something I did notice here is it says we have 643 subscribers.
643. And yeah, you are correct. We do have 643. We've been climbing up the last little bit. I don't know. They come in dribs and drabs. All of a sudden, we have none for weeks. And then all of a sudden, we get a ton. Well, not a ton, but 4 in a row or so. That's great. I appreciate that. We appreciate anybody who wants to come and subscribe. And now I know that I was just doing some digging in our. I think I mentioned this to you, Cam. It might be interesting to people who watch. Of our people who watch the show, 80%, just over 80%, are subscribed. So, we really can't complain. We're doing pretty good for subscribers. Most other streams that I see, people complain and they say, oh, most of the people who watch the show are not even subscribed. So, in that respect, I guess we're doing pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I would say.
Sure. We'll take what we can get.
That's right. Just excuse me. I'm eating a little pie here. I'm finishing off pie.
Repulsive.
It's what? Pie or cake?
No, the fact that you're eating it on stream, you animal.
Put 1 in the chat for pie and 2 for cake. Pie is better than cake. Come on. It's pear pie with a lot of cinnamon on top. So the kids didn't like it, so I'm eating theirs.
Yeah, I got something to say about this. Now, I was always a cake fan throughout my life, and then kind of later in life, I was like, okay, there's some pie that I like. You know what I don't like? I don't like the banana cream or chocolate cream pie. I know those, basically a crust filled with pudding is not for me. But there were some like fruit pies and things that's like, okay, I like those. And actually my favorite is a chocolate chip pecan pie that one of my favorite restaurants, no longer around, used to have. It was like basically like eating a chocolate chip cookie, with pecans. That was great. But here's the thing. The problem is cake often sucks. It's just poorly made cake. It's just garbage. So today, if you gave me like the best cake, the top of the line cake or the top of the line pie, I think I'd still go with cake.
Really?
Yeah. It's just hard to find good cake.
Yes, pear pie. It is pear pie. That's what they bought. Apparently, it's a thing.
Pear is just what you eat when you can't get apples, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
And no, I did not bring anybody enough for everybody. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. You have to get your own pie. I am not a pop. Cam is a pie snob. I am not. I like any kind of pie.
Yeah, I'd say
pear pie. I've never had it. See, Snugs, always always got my back against Cam. Right on. Oh, look, other people are making, see, some
cookies for the win. See, okay, Greg, see, you just said it right there. Cookies are fantastic. I love cookies.
Cake versus pie. Yes, the internal debate. All right. So, Cam, before we get started on the show, we have to answer the question, of course. Let's go. And what have you done this week to increase your sci-fi snobbery?
Well, smartass, I got an answer for you this week.
All right, finally.
Yeah, that's right. Please. I watched.
Check out the birds
Yeah,
while you're talking.
you check out the bird. I'll show you the bird, buddy.
Yeah, the birds. Look at them. They're so cute.
Uh-huh. I watched Aliens this week, which I hadn't seen.
Aliens.
The classic sequel to Alien. I haven't seen it in a very long time, and I have to tell you, I was okay. So amongst my friend group, quoting this movie is something that went on for decades and still finds its way in there, right? And I have to say, watching the movie, I found the dialogue to be very cringeworthy.
Really?
Yes, but not such that it ruined the movie for me. But the suspense of the movie, even though I've seen it many times, I know what happens. It had me on the edge of my seat. I'm like, this is a damn fine movie. Love that movie.
It's a good movie.
It might be a top 10 movie for me.
Yeah. It's really well done. Surprisingly from, I like it because it's like they're changing, they change the genre, right? Like the first movie is sci-fi horror, and then they go, more action oriented. And I think it really fits with the storyline, right? We had a couple people out there, bad things happen to them. Now we're going to send in the Marines. It's going to become more action with still a tinge of the horror in that, right? So I think they do a really good job of that.
Well, I think it still has horror elements in it,
Of course.
But yeah, it's definitely much more action oriented. And so the reason I'm doing this is because I'm anticipating the arrival of my Alien role playing game, which should be another week to a little over a week to 2 weeks probably. So I'm getting warmed up for that.
I didn't find the dialogue cringeworthy.
When's the last time you've seen it?
Not too long ago.
Okay,
a couple months, less than a year.
Okay, it's probably because it's not so much because of the movie. It's because of my experience with hearing these lines poorly repeated, probably in excess. So many times. It's. See, Dave, you're going through, and again, I love Bill Paxton. This is one of his greatest movies. His greatest movie being, oh God, what's the name of that? Well, no matter. But it's, I don't know, it's over the top, or I don't know. It's just a little cringe to me at this point.
I enjoyed it. I thought that the talk between the soldiers, I think that's probably what you were thinking was most cringeworthy. I assumed you didn't say it. But,
it's not. I mean, obviously,
I found that
soldiers
perfectly
most of it.
acceptable. The soldiers, they talk like real soldiers, joking about themselves and saying stupid stuff.
Well, you see, it's not every line that they say. It's certain lines that are just. Again, they've been bounced around so many times that they're just stale to me, I guess.
How are those birds not frozen solid? You see how fat they look? They are not this fat. They are really skinny, but their feathers puff out a lot. It makes them look like little fat puff balls.
Like little.
But they're actually real skinny. If you see them in the summer, they're all skinny and oh, they look how skinny. They just puff their feathers out when it gets cold and keeps them warm somehow, I guess. And they hide in trees. I don't know. We're feeding them. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The movie I was referring to is Frailty with Bill Paxton.
Really?
Damn, I love that movie too. That's a great movie. So if you haven't seen it, don't spoil yourself and go see it, or find it somewhere. Have you seen it?
Which one? Sorry.
It's called Frailty.
Frailty. No, I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, it's not sci-fi.
Have you seen Gattaca yet?
No.
Frailty. All right, let me add that to my list. I have Predestination on my finally. I got a copy of it. I got to watch it yet. So I got to watch that. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, what about me? What did I do?
Nobody cares.
Yeah. It's supposed to be over the top.
80s era Hollywood military speak. I thought that was fairly well done. I mean, it's the kind of thing. It's kind of the way they got the way that soldiers talk amongst themselves.
Yeah, I like that
very well. I mean, the exact wording is, I mean, that's not important, but yeah. What did I do? I'm carrying on with my the Marvel experience here. We're up to we watched. My daughter insisted on watching the Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton version.
Okay.
And so I said, all right. And she said, okay, it's not that bad. She said, and I'm like, all right, fine.
I was just discussing that myself the other day.
Is it a part of the MCU or not? Is that the question?
I think it officially is, because.
But I don't think it was officially part of it beforehand, though.
Well,
you know what
that's
I mean?
true. Well, Iron Man was really the first.
Yes.
Movie.
They came out almost simultaneously, like within a few months. They both came out in 2008.
Sure, and I think it is grandfathered in, though, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, they grandfathered it in, I think. It's funny because you know who General Ross is?
Yes, right. He's
William Hurt plays him
in
the Incredible Hulk. Now, the MCU has a rule where nobody can play another character, right? If you play a character, that's it. You can't.
Is it?
Yeah, they do have that rule.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. They generally follow it.
Really?
Robert Downey Jr. Huh?
Robert Downey Jr., right?
Yeah. Well, that's the rule, right? Like he plays. Well,
okay.
That's the big thing about you're talking about Doom. Well, that's the big thing, right? That's why everyone's speculating that Doom is actually going to be Tony Stark, but a different reality where he's been messed up or whatever, right? Yeah, so this is that's the rule they used to have. They seem to be anyway. So William Hurt plays General Ross, Betty Ross's father. Who's chasing the Hulk. Now he's also in. He's in other ones, but he's at least in
Civil War, right?
Civil War because I just watched him. He's there. Yeah, and he plays the Secretary of State, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. Wait a minute. In the Hulk. I'm sorry. In the Captain America Falcon one.
Yeah, you recently saw that one.
I didn't see it. Was Harrison Ford Ross though? Did they recast that? Recast it?
Remember. Yeah. So it's a little bit fishy. It's Tony Stark shows up at the very end of the movie and talks but I thought they just sort of threw that in at the last minute.
Yeah, we're discussing that Edward Norton would have been
Ed Norton Hulk.
a much better than frickin' God, what's his name? I can't remember anything anymore. Hulk. That
Ford played Ross.
Yeah, right. Who played Hulk in most of the Avengers movies? The Human Wet Blanket.
What's his name?
Somebody knows.
The chat knows. His name is
Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo. That pathetic piece of crap. Oh my God, I hate that guy.
Yeah. Well, the word I heard is that Norton was too difficult to work with, so they fired him. They were going to use him, but he was just a pain in the ass. So they said, screw that guy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that Mark Ruffalo is just a dream to work with.
Well, he's probably not as difficult as Norton. I think I heard Norton's pretty difficult. But anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So I saw saw those two movies, and now the daughter wants to. She wants to go back and watch all the Spider-Man movies now because she says she saw Spider-Man in there. She wants to see the original Tobey Maguire and Garfield ones, and I'm like, I've seen them so many times, I'm not really keen on it, but she can watch them. It's fine. It's no problem. She wants to take a break. Let's take a break and watch the Spider-Man movie. I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. I think I have copies of them around here anyway, so it should be pretty easy to do. Yeah, I don't mind. But we're getting close. I'm trying to take her at least up to Endgame. And it actually would be good for her to see the Spider-Man movies if she's going to see the third Spider-Man with Tom, what's his name, Holland, where they all get together with stuff. So that should be good. Yeah. And I'm reading. I finished the second book. I don't know if I mentioned that last week. Finished the second book from Ian M. Banks, and I got like 20 pages into the third one, and I also finished off Neil Asher's Gridlinked, which I had read before, but I forgot parts of it, and I think I didn't finish it for some reason. There was some weird, so I'm starting again at Asher with the beginning. So yeah. The Spider-Man live action show. Yeah, I got to find that and do that. Toby is the best Spider-Man. Well, I think they all have their charm. Predestination is great. Yeah, it's based on a Highland story. Well, I might probably have read it then. Yeah. Have I read it? Maybe I have. He's General Ross. The first two movies becomes Secretary of State after. Yeah. All right. So, so that's it. That's Cam. That's all you have for us.
Well, I don't have a tool segment, but I will mention that the deals are continuing to heat up at the big box stores for various tools. So again, anyone who didn't hear me mention that last week, check them out if you're looking for some tool deals. All right.
Okay. Let me just check here. Do we have anything? I don't think we have anything else to go on. I'm gonna at the end of the show. I got some news about upcoming shows. We're gonna talk a little bit about them, what's gonna happen on the Babylon 5 show too, as well as on this show. 12 people in the chat. It says it's bouncing around. I thought I saw 15, but good to have everyone here. Yeah, good thing. Best thing about 2003 Hulk is Jennifer Connelly. Yes. I actually should. I mean, I liked what Ang Lee tried to do with that Hulk. The whole comic book. It was very much like Blade. Do you remember that Blade? And the first Hulk movie?
Yes.
They were shot a lot like comic books. They'd be the cut screens, and then you'd see on the screen you'd have 4 or 5 panels, something like that. That sort of thing. So I appreciate what they did there. But I mean, Ang Lee's Hulk was just. It was a little bit boring. It was like Hulk jumping around all the time. It's like, okay,
yeah.
But there was some, the 2008 Hulk. There was some, stupid things that my daughter caught. She's like, they jump away. They first run away. They get attacked at the government tries to capture the Hulk at the university that he's going back to get his. Trying to get the data on his, his old data. So he goes back to the university. The military, General Ross, surrounds the place, starts shooting at him. I mean, there's kids running around. They're firing. They've got armored vehicles, Humvees with 50 calibers firing away. Guys with, M16s. They've got. There's a helicopter that comes in to shoot them, in which the Hulk, then destroys, and it crashes into the ground, throwing pieces everywhere and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I'm gonna tell my daughter, when they miss the Hulk, they don't just like disappear. Those rounds go somewhere else. There's like 1,000 kids running around in the background, taping it with their phones and screaming and yelling. I mean, she's like, and then they jump away and they go, and they're at this. It's some waterfall and a rock and a little cave, and they go in the cave, and then they spend the night in the cave, and then he's not the Hulk anymore, and then they the next day they're running around somewhere else. You're like, how do they get down from the cave? Like the cave looks like it's like one of those caves you can only get to if you're the Hulk and you jump there, right? Like there's nowhere. It's not a ladder or anything. How do they get down? Oh well, who cares? Just watch the movie. Oh, plurality. All right. Let me check that out. I'm trying to work on Falling Skies. I want to see that. Blade didn't have cut panels on screen, no, but it cut quick to other stuff. There's a little bit, it's kind of the same idea. Try to make it comic book look, that give look. Yeah, the plot of the first Hulk movie was pretty much of a mess. This one wasn't great, but it wasn't as messy, in my view.
All right, wait. What say we deliver our topic to these fine folks who are
all right,
so generously waiting?
All right, let's get into it. Okay, so first, Cam, first thing we should do, I think, is we should explain our your Venn diagram,
Our working
and
definition.
yes, and discuss it. And this is kind of what we're going to go on.
Yeah, stretching way back to our first or second episode. I think first episode, right? When we talked about this,
first or second, pretty early on.
Okay, so very briefly, we're saying that there's three elements that really have to be there for it to truly be what we'll call classic sci-fi or golden age sci-fi, maybe sci-fi,
real sci-fi.
Yeah,
snob-worthy sci-fi.
Sure. One, technology impact on the story. Meaning it can't just have technology; it has to somehow, shape the story. A futuristic element relative to humanity. So, if it was a story not about humanity at all, then that really wouldn't be sci-fi because it's not our society. It has to somehow be attached to our society. And then thirdly, it has to have some sort of speculative nature about our society / humanity. Which, and all these things rely on each other, so it couldn't just be technology from the 1800s and how gunpowder, for example, shaped modern warfare.
Well, no, it could. If the setting was back, if it was set in the 1830s or whatever, and they used some sort of future technology relative to that society.
Well, that's my point. Gunpowder wasn't future technology; it was current technology. At that time,
good point.
So it has to, what I'm saying is gunpowder is technology, but if it's conventional for its time, or if it's conventional technology, then it's not, that's not what we're talking about. So because that violates the second part, which is the futuristic element of it. So anyway, there you go.
So now of these three circles in our Venn diagram, to me, the bottom one, the speculative nature about humanity, is the most important one. That's where most writers of this to me, this is what makes the difference between good science fiction and just ho hum action movie stuff, which is what we're going to talk about. To me, you have to take some aspect of science fiction or some aspect of society, and usually it's taken to an extreme. Say cloning, artificial intelligence, man transcending, superpowers, the ability to move things with your mind, whatever it is. Take it to some sort of extreme or beyond what it is now, then and see how that impacts society. That is what to me makes it real science fiction. So that's my key thing. Now Cam doesn't agree, right, Cam?
No, I think that all the elements are needed. So I don't know that you can say one is more important. We were talking about this a little bit before the show. I would say that you can make a claim that it is the more difficult one to achieve or the rarer one to see, but doesn't make it any more important, because you could speculate about humanity without being sci-fi. Any of these elements can exist without being sci-fi as well.
Of course. But okay, so when I put this list of films together, and I just somewhat randomly, and they're more well known and more recent films, from the last 40 years or something, ones that everyone should know. To me, if they're science fiction or not, it really depends on that bottom yellow circle. If they speculate something about humanity, and they examine that, then that's really science fiction, as opposed to the other two part. We get Space Marines with technology and that kind of stuff. That's not really it doesn't really look at the heart of what science fiction looks at. But we can talk about those, and everyone can decide what they think. All right. Everyone's already started. So it was Altered Carbon, completely sci-fi. Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna jump into the thing. You ready, Cam?
No, I just want to note that.
No, you want to say something else first? Sorry.
Snugs has mentioned that he mentioned Wild Wild West with Will Smith, and then says that he does support it, and which I take to mean he's willing to argue it. So we will welcome Snuggy on a show of his choice to come in and defend
argue
that.
about Wild Ones. Yeah, so we'll try to save some time at the end, and the ones that we don't discuss to discuss them when they're brought up in the chat. I'll try to pin some of these comments as we go, but remind me. You want to look at hard sci-fi versus soft sci-fi. Hard sci-fi is more technically oriented, and it tries to explain the physics of what's going on, and it's usually more focused on that a little bit more, or we'll take some sort of physics that we know of now, and then maybe take it to some extreme, which may or may not be correct. And it focuses more on the physical aspects of it. So, for example, Niven is Larry Niven is very much a hard science fiction writer. So he wrote the Ringworld series, right? Dyson Spheres, Ringworlds, everyone knows about that. So he explains on how it's done. We did this, we did that. That's hard science fiction. Soft science fiction would be, for example, the Flash Gordon movie we saw. There's not really much explanation about how this magical ring works, or you've got your laser gun, how does that work? Doesn't matter. It just happens. The focus is on the characters usually, and less on the science fiction and explaining how it works, or trying to even make it work with what we know so far. That's kind of the real difference. Yeah, we're all about roping people into things they might not want to do. Well, that's my job to do on cam. But yeah.
Hey, crap goes downhill, man.
Okay, so let's go. Our first one. Cam, do you recognize this?
I certainly do.
All right, what movie is this?
2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah, it is. It is correct. Very good. Very good. Now, based on my definition, well, let me just, you do yours. Let's say, what do you think? Would you call this real science fiction?
Yes.
Okay, you want to tell us why, or are you just going to give us one-word answers?
Well, you just asked me. I said yes. Okay. Well, if you go to the Venn diagram, I would say it's actually probably the most heavy with the speculative segment. It does have technology. Technology is, does partially drive the story. Well, not okay. So okay. There's different technologies in this. But even if I eliminate some of the counter argument I was going to make of my own claim, Hal himself alone, I should say, Hal alone, I think covers those bases.
Okay, so to me, yeah, this is definitely real science fiction, right? The aspect of the speculative nature about humanity. I mean, this is what the whole movie's about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's speculating about the nature of humanity. They've got, the monolith.
Going back in time.
Yeah, going back in time, the monolith, and the, what makes us human, the weird stuff at the end. I mean, it's all about speculating on, where we came from and where we're going to. So, I mean, to me, this is very much big in the yellow, so to speak.
Right. And so that was my thought too, is that it was the yellow kind of leads it in this case, which is a little bit strange.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, well, the technology, because I started thinking about technology with the ships and everything. It was like, well, it really was kind of a straight line from, where we were. We knew that we had rockets and things. It's not like there was any particularly advanced space travel. It is, it
doesn't
is
have to be super advanced in order to.
Right. But we've argued before that if it's just a straight line from where we are now, that it's not necessarily kind of qualify, like
I think that qualifies.
Okay. And then my point is that the more relevant technology that has impact on the story is HAL, or if you want to take the the monolith and the aliens and everything, that aspect is.
Yeah, so this one is, I mean, you can have if you look at the Venn diagram, you can say, some of the three elements are focused on are more important to the story. And in this one, I mean, I think the speculative nature is a lot more in that.
Right. Because it's kind of similar to what PB's question was, is that, the setting is just kind of near future technology that is not beyond comprehension or beyond achieving. They're, they don't have artificial gravity, for example. They're not.
Yeah, but that's not necessary. That's not necessary for it to be science fiction. But
I understand. I'm saying that the point is that this is not wildly, the technology is not wildly beyond what we had at the time. We had rocketry. We did have space flight in a limited fashion. Even, again, the space station and things, those were all envisioned, as realistic things. And we kind of, we've languished with that, but they're all achievable, and not, beyond current day technology, really.
All right.
Now, and then of course, the artificial intelligence element of HAL. Well, we're staring that in the face too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go to the next one. All right. Back to the Future. Cam, what do you think? So I say 2001. I say yes. It's Back to the Future.
Well, okay, you've got the technology, the time machine. You've got the time machine greatly impacts the course of the story. So you've got the red and the blue for sure. Does it speculate about the nature of humanity in regards to that technology? I don't think it does, or if it does, it's very weak in that area. So I by our strict definition, I guess I have to say no.
So by the snob definition, my definition, it's it's got to have the yellow to be a real science fiction movie. Mm-hmm. So this one is, I say no. I mean, it's got the other elements of it. It's really like, it's really an adventure, right? Like a drama. He's got his problems. He's trying to solve them. Get back to the future and all that stuff. But it doesn't really speculate about the nature of humanity. Maybe a little bit when you look at the, and when I say Back to the Future, I'm going to look at the whole series. I'll just note that, we're going to look at some movies which have a series. We're going to look at the general series, not just the one film or whatever. So my view on this is that, it's really an adventure story set in a future, and it's really not talking about the nature of humanity, unless you look at the fact that, Biff is a jerk. Humans are sometimes jerks, and Marty almost gets caught. He causes a big problem by thinking he wants to make money with buying the book, so he knows the betting book. But that's really not fundamental to the science fiction aspect of the story. So for me, it's no, it's not really science fiction. It fits the rough definition, but for me, the snob definition, no, it's not.
Okay.
So Michael agrees. All right, good. Not much speculation in the yellow circle. It's all about the yellow for me. All about the yellow. All right, Cam, do you have anything else to say about this one?
No. I strangely we agree on 2 for 2.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi comedy, and the plebes would call it sci-fi, but I wouldn't, because I am much more strict.
You hear that, Mr. Milquetoast?
That's right.
He just called you a pleb.
We're strict. All right, what's next?
You
know this movie, Cam?
Terminator.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, look. Oh, Greg, it does speculate about the nature of humanity. Families don't change was the message. Do you need science fiction it doesn't have to be a science fiction movie to say that? Well, that's a good point, though.
I mean, no, it doesn't speculate because it doesn't go beyond our time. It might make a commentary on
yeah,
on the
and they do
family.
change. They do change because at the end of the movie, what's his name? Marty doesn't get. He's able to change, and he doesn't get. Tempted to do this stupid racing thing with Needles or whoever the guy is, and so he does kind of change.
Well, it's a good.
Call it loud, Snob.
It's a good question. There are a point they're bringing up about that it. See, I don't call it speculation because it's not about where humanity's going. It's about what humanity is or has been. So in my mind, it's reaching back and then within the present. I guess you could say number 2 does go into the future and come back, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm still gonna stick with my guns on that one.
All right, the Terminator, and these,
Yeah.
and I speak in general about all the Terminator movies. We can ignore the crappy later ones, but just in general, Terminator, Skynet, all that stuff.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna say yes. I
Why?
think obviously technology and its impact on humanity are obvious. Again, the yellow and blue are obvious, and then about the nature of humanity, or speculative nature about how I think that's there because we see what happens if you don't take these lessons to heart, or if you don't pay attention to what you're doing with these things, where it ends up, and it's very bad. So while it's not really it's not so philosophical as practical, but that we didn't restrict it to a specific kind of speculation about humanity, just that it is where humanity is going due to these things, and in this case it's post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, I think there's I think it's in the second movie. There's a scene where I think second movie some kids are fighting over a toy or something like that, and they're just looking stupid, and one of the things that I think John Connor says is, we're not going to make it, are we? We fight amongst ourselves, we do this, and Arnold has some reply about how you have a great capacity to be destructive towards yourselves, that kind of thing, which the machines don't do. So there is that aspect of it for certain. Look at what are we doing? Where's humanity going? How will we survive? That kind of thing.
Well, and I mean, you could just take the element. I'm not disagreeing with you, but you could take the element of humanity's tendency, which again we're doing today, to race headlong into, oh, wouldn't it be great? This technology can do X, Y, Z without thinking about the consequences. Is in itself, speculation about the nature of humanity. Even though it's somewhat constant, we repeat those kinds of problems a lot. It's not like we can't find new ways to deal with that issue, or new ways to make a disaster of that tendency.
Yeah, and I just want to address PB's. PB's always on the mark. He always puts whatever I want to say better than I am. We are actually, when I say real science fiction, what I'm saying is you're right. It's basically lowbrow versus highbrow cerebral. And for me, the highbrow cerebral science fiction is more real science fiction, of course. Because I'm a snob. Yeah,
I am not.
So you got it right. That's what we're looking at today. Call it, real science fiction. Call it lowbrow versus highbrow. However you want to say it. That's a good point. All right. Okay. I'm just looking at the chat here. Yeah. Okay. Is that anything else, Cam, you want to say about that one?
No.
Cam hasn't really seen these before. These are kind of a surprise to him. So.
Oh, you mean the ones for the list?
Yeah, the ones we're looking at.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. This is a pretty common one. You know what that one is?
Oh, the Matrix.
Matrix series, yeah.
Well,
thank you. I appreciate that, PB.
I think I have to say yes. for kind of similar reasons.
There's no wrong answers.
I guess I'm not sure that I know exactly how this, or I remember exactly what the final answer was for the Matrix. But because it's kind of this time loop thing where I think even within the story, they're not clear on what's what. But as I recall, there's at some point, humanity made these machines in which they, and everyone ended up in these pods, and then they have this, alternate world that they go into, but that's not. It's not necessarily one iteration. This could have gone on many, many times, and this, the real humans in the real world they don't really know. They can't trace their history at some point. But presumably at some point they had to do this thing where they made these machines. So you've got the technology and you've got clearly its impact to humanity in a massive way. And the speculation part seems to be there as well. It's like, well, where does humanity end up? Now, again, a lot of them are probably going to fall into that kind of category. It's like, well, something happened to people because of the technological things that they did and embraced. It's like, so it's not. From that point, can you just say, well, anything post-apocalyptic is that speculation? Because
it's got to speculate on something about humanity, right?
Well, but what I'm saying is for like Terminator in this, I'm like, well, humanity, the speculation is that it will end up in their near destruction. I don't know if it's what message is coming from this. Okay, if you're saying, okay, what is the speculation about? How does it differ?
Okay, so it seems like a lot of the chat says yes, it is. And I would agree with you.
I do say yes, but
I agree. Yes. So, what is the speculative nature about humanity? Can we survive these situations? Freedom, having the will to overcome impossible odds, not giving up, the nature of us, how we want to be free. There's also other aspects of, in the Matrix, what is real and what is not real? Is it better to, is real more important? The aspect of living in a dream world. There's lots of stories about, that aspect. Would it be better to dream or live reality, that nature of humanity, our capacity to do all those things. That's all in there. That's all about, us and our abilities. What's his name? The bald guy who's on the far left. Damn it. But, he says that, plug me back in. If I had known, I would have stayed in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff, right? What some people would pick that versus others would be, no, I always want to see what's real. So, looking at our humanity that way. I think that's an aspect of it. I think this is a pretty fairly easy one. A lot of stuff about, the freedom and all that, being a battery versus, not. Okay, let's keep moving. Do you recognize this movie, Cam?
Just barely. Yeah, it's faint in my memory.
It's the Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So,
is this meets the sci-fi snobbery approved or not? No. What do you mean no?
Does not.
This is Star Wars. This is like the most famous. Why?
As I mentioned, this has nothing to do with humanity as we know it. Meaning our actual. You can't speculate on humanity. You could make analogies and things about humanity, but this setting cannot be speculation of humanity because they're not from Earth. They are human, I guess, and even in that world they call them humans and things, but they're not the same as us. They're not from Earth. It's not the far future. It's the far past, actually. There's no speculation that I'm aware of that they that we're their future. It's and then again, the technology in their world is conventional as well. It's they're not dealing. I mean, I guess you have the Death Star and everything, which is kind of like a super weapon. So I suppose that is stretching their technology, but again, it's kind of a straight line thing. But the big part of it is that it's not making a comment. It's not speculation on where humanity is going, meaning us. For these things, and not only that, we've already previously discussed this, and I think most people categorize this as science fantasy. It's not science fiction in multiple ways.
Yeah. A good point PB has about the Matrix there. That's good. I wanted to put that one up. Mr. Melko says it is soft sci-fi. Well, we're trying to look at not hard versus soft, but lowbrow versus higher brow, or snob approved or not snob approved. It's Memto Mori. Good to see you in the chat. First, I haven't seen your chat until this one. Good to see you. I agree with Cam. No, it is the hero's journey. The whole movie doesn't need to take place in a far future past. It's the hero's journey, and it could have been, that's the reason why we call it science fantasy, because it's not, the science isn't key to the aspect, and it doesn't really, it's not really focused on the nature of humans and what we, how science affects us or any of that aspect of it. It's just, it's a good story and it's a good hero's journey, but it's a classic story about the journey of the hero to get from point A to point B and growth and becoming, saving the world. Cypher, that's his name, damn it. Cypher. Thanks, guys. Always count on the chat to keep us correct. So it seems that a lot of you seem to agree that it's science fantasy. To me, it doesn't really have the speculative nature about humanity. That's not a key aspect or an important aspect of it. All right, let me just go here. Let me just try. There's a lot of Star Wars. Was the very definition of sci-fi. Another galaxy, tech advanced our own. Star Wars, the most inconsistent sci-fi. Sci-fi with fancy dressing and lowbrow. I would call it. We discussed this before, Cameron, and we basically said it was science fantasy. It's not really.
Yeah, I mean, we're working off of
space
our
wizards and laser swords. Yeah,
by our definition that we're working from. Yeah, that we don't define the laws of sci-fi, so we can't say this is the definition that everyone must follow. So
yes, not until I become master of the universe, and then everyone will be forced.
Yeah, so we're
my definition. But until then,
all of this is within our working definition.
Yeah, Star Wars, good versus evil, hero's journey, evil man's redemption. Yes, I agree. It's definitely,
well, here's the thing
glosses over the technology, generally speaking.
Is you could basically tell the same story if you didn't have futuristic technology, from in relation to Earth. The story really wouldn't change that much. You could just go full magic on it, as opposed to just the Force. A destructive device of some magical power of some sort. That's the Death Star. You could, substitute that in, and the story would basically proceed the same.
Yeah. Now it does have aspects of science or science fiction in it. Futuristic elements relative to humanity. Lasers and Death Stars and blasters and spaceships that go into hyperspace. That's all the red aspect of the
not in relation to us, not in relation to their society. Those things, Death Star is really the primary thing. I mean, droids. Almost every aspect in the movie is well known to them. It's been around for a very long time. It's just part of their world.
But all of it is in most stories, Cam. Like you can't use that as the like. It's got to be relative to us because any science fiction movie, well, all of the stuff is normal to them, right? Like,
well, that I'm using our definition, which is that it relative to us, we discussed it at the beginning. If it's a completely alien society that has technology that's different from our own and advanced compared to ours, doesn't qualify for that.
Well, I wouldn't.
Because, okay, well then you're disagreeing with the working definition we've been working for 76 episodes.
No, it's futuristic. Which one? Technological impact on
the red one.
The story. Futuristic elements relative to humanity and speculative nature about humanity. I mean,
relative to humanity. It's not their technology is not relative to us.
Yeah, it's way above us.
Within the story, us doesn't matter. Us is not part of this. Our history is not their history. It's completely separate from it.
That doesn't matter though, because
yeah, it does.
Well, it doesn't, because there's lots of science fiction stories that don't necessarily start from a position where we are now or where we were 10 years ago or 20 or 50 or 100. Sometimes they don't necessarily happen in, whatever our universe is. It could be another part of another multiverse or an area, some other time where the Germany won the war or all kinds of that stuff.
That's related to us. That's related to actual Earth, humans.
Well, but you can't, some stories don't specifically say that they are or not. And you can't, you don't know.
Well, Star Wars specifically isn't.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. This is not what that definition is. That red portion is. It's the whole point is that if it's completely disconnected from humans, real humans on Earth, us, or anywhere along our timeline, then it kind of breaks that chain. It's because if you do accept that, then how is this not sci-fi? How do we disqualify this then?
Because it's not about, it's not speculative nature about humanity. It's not looking at any sort of big
because it's
question
not
about
to humanity.
Because it's not looking at any big questions about how humanity reacts to some change in technology or.
Well, I will counter that argument and say that the Death Star does qualify as that then, because that technology is changing the shape of their entire galaxy. Their entire setting will be affected by that development in their technology.
Yeah, but it's within, it's not, you're not speculating about the change in the nature of humanity, right? That's just, the Death Star is just a big gun.
Okay, well then AI is just a big computer that will screw us over, just like Terminator. Then that will fail as well.
But there's other aspects of AI. It's not just a big computer, because if it becomes sentient, then that's a different aspect. Now we have an artificially made intelligence that is sentient like us, and then that becomes, we have to look at the moral aspects of that. Do we treat these AI as people? Are they people? They have their own, or do we treat them as machines? Are they tools? We created them, but that gets onto all that messy stuff right there. Like that's where things get, that's where you get that speculative nature about humanity. Are they human now? They're not human, but do they deserve the same rights as we have as humans? That's where it gets all the messy stuff comes in.
Let me address PB's point here. Says, wait, so only sci-fi stories about Earth count as sci-fi? No, they don't necessarily have to be about Earth specifically, which the definition, which again we've relied on many times, which it seems, and maybe I'm mistaken, but it seems that now we have a disagreement on, is that when you break the line to actual humanity, which is us, then it can't stand without that leg. So it could be, anywhere along humanity's future where Earth might not be part of the story at all, but Luke and Han and Leia are in no way connected to Earth that we're aware of in any part of the story. They are not our future and they're not our past. They are completely separated from us. So you can't speculate on our society or the future of our society or the past of our society when they don't have that connection. So that's what that element means. From my understanding, and I'm the one that wrote it. So pretend they didn't look like humans. Pretend that they were visually different and not called human. It might be easier to understand in that respect. Then this is about a completely different society. It's not speculating about humanity.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter in my view. Just because they're a different society, they're not. There doesn't need to be a line drawn from where we are now to some other spot in order for it to comment on, speculate on the nature of humanity or the nature of morality or any of that stuff.
Well, it can only do that by analogy then, or by allegory, or some other means. It's not that.
I see what you're saying, PB, but I don't agree with that. Cam might be saying that, but I don't agree. There's it doesn't have to be. They don't have to draw a line. You could make up a completely different society made up of
okay. Let's go.
Other beings that let's say that they. I mean, you could make them human. You could make them something other than human, but you could still have a story that would look at how technology would impact them, and we could relate it to ourselves and how that might go with us as well.
Okay, you've just undercut the entire wall that's built that's defining this. Then, because let's go through Star Wars, since we're down this rabbit hole now. Let's go through the three different areas and see where it doesn't connect. Because one, technology is clearly part of it, right? I mean, and advanced technology. Again, the Death Star being a very big example. It's this advancement, this new thing, this new weapon that's developed that is drives the entire first story, really, right?
Right.
Okay, so that one's. Do we agree that's there?
That technology has impact on the story. Yeah, it has some impact, but it's not really. Yeah, it has some impact, but it's not really.
Remove the Death Star from.
It's
Star
not
Wars
really
a
a key. Yeah, but it's okay. So
it absolutely is a key. It's the center point of the entire story.
See, it's just a way. It's just a way to put a large Star Wars is a story about a rebellion, and it could be written in any time. It could be written in World War II, and you put atomic bomb instead of Death Star.
Okay.
So it's really not like. The story is about, the bad guys want to, rain hellfire and death and destruction on the innocent good people. So, whether it's done by whatever the technology is not key to the story. So, I mean, yeah, there is technology in the story, but, it doesn't matter the Death Star, how it,
Well, I agree to the extent that it could be substituted out for some. I made this argument just a few minutes ago that it could be magic instead of technology. Yeah. But it is technology.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm saying that the nature
but it's
of the
technological impact on the story. What I'm saying is that, for example, if we have a story where we discover cloning tomorrow, right? And then let's write a story that what is our society going to look like 20 years from now if everybody can clone themselves? How would that look? And there are writers who have done stuff like that, right? And so that is the speculative nature of humanity. But if it's just like now we have a gun that's a little bigger than before or a different type of power or whatever. That's really not, the technology does have an impact on the story, but it's not the key thing in Star Wars, right? Like that's not the most important aspect of the story. Which is why it's not really science fiction. It's science fantasy. It's a fantasy story with scientific elements, and it's set in a future past in another galaxy.
Okay. So does blue qualify or not?
What?
Does our blue category qualify for Star Wars or not?
Yeah, there is some technological aspects of the story, but it's not really that. It's not really that important. They're very minor.
Okay, and you were arguing, I believe, that the red qualifies, where I was saying it doesn't.
Yeah, because I don't. I mean, well, I wasn't really arguing about that. I'm just saying that it doesn't have to drive directly a line from where we are presently on Earth in this timeline to somewhere else in order for it to be a futuristic element relative to humanity. In this story, the technology is higher than it is for humans, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, relative to humanity, this technology, it is a futuristic element. Just because we're in a different, universe or whatever you want to, multiverse, whatever you want to call it, and that doesn't mean it's not. That's my point.
Can you bring up the Venn diagram again?
Sure. Let me just let me go back to here.
Futuristic element relative to humanity.
So that's what, to me, relative to humanity just means wherever we are now, it should be, or whatever, if we were to set the story in the 1850s and to put, a flying car in it or an airplane, that would still be a futuristic element relative to the humanity that you're representing at the time. So that would qualify, right? So something like Wild Wild West, which was mentioned earlier, would qualify in that aspect because the technology in there is, steampunk. It's not relative to that time frame, so it does have that futuristic element. Yeah. So the only thing I'm arguing with you, Cam, is the fact that we don't have to start from where we are now and draw a direct line. We can go other places. We can make up our own, a human-like civilization on a different planet. It can be unrelated to us. You can even do the same thing with an alien. And I've read many science fiction stories that are that discuss these kind of topics, but they don't use humans as a basis. It's a little harder to do. You got to be a little more creative
because because there is no basis in which to ground any of those things and judge them on that. Sorry, brief aside, PB. The question he says about the Venn diagram, if one of the three circles only contributes 1% to the total, does it still qualify as sci-fi? It can. We would say that's extremely weak. We kind of rate these areas, and if it's very, very weak, like 1%, we might say, yeah, it's not going to do it.
Well, no, you could. I mean, that's something you can discuss.
Right, and that's what we have in our
1%, 2%. Like for me, it's just I like to see elements of something in all three, and to me, the most important is the speculative nature about humanity, in that it makes it, like we were discussing, lowbrow versus highbrow science fiction, and that's the point that I find the most interesting. But that doesn't mean that it's not science fiction if it doesn't have those other elements in it.
Well,
you can argue about it.
PB goes on to say, question, when we say speculative humanity, does that mean the ideas and concepts of morals, good versus evil, as opposed to actual humans on Earth?
Yes.
And see, that's, you're saying yes. I'm saying
yes, the first part.
Yeah, right. And I'm saying no. And again, unless I'm misremembering, I think I at least have argued this that it does, because, and again, I said at the beginning of the show without being questioned about that statement, by the way, that if you remove it from humanity, from actual humanity, our line, even though it might be very far in the future, or not having anything to do with Earth, like let's say Dune really doesn't involve Earth technically, it's kind of in the background, is that it makes that disconnection and then turns it into more of a fable or an allegory or something else, that further removes it from sci-fi. To me, it's like it's kind of another dimension, that it's lifting from. In one plane we have sci-fi, and when you go completely into an allegory of that and not disconnected from actual humanity, then it kind of moves it in that third dimension, away from, to a different plane. Is if I'm describing this in a way that makes sense. Whereas you're saying it doesn't matter. You could write a completely alien story where you have things about, that are futuristic to us, but maybe aren't futuristic to them.
Yep.
And
people and science fiction authors have done that. They've written stories about, aliens. There's some, very creative stories about aliens and looking at their society, and, we can reflect on that. And how does that reflect back on us?
So, okay. And what I'm saying is what you're describing then is this, and maybe I don't have enough words to describe it, but what I'll loosely call an allegory then. It's, you could tell a story about animals, that and an animal society and how that reflects on humanity, for example,
right.
Because you're saying, oh, there's this common thing that relates us. In my mind, that breaks
that wouldn't necessarily be science fiction, because you would have, it's not just one, Okay, so you're talking about, let's say, Animal Farm. Animal Farm is a perfect example, right? There's an allegory with animals, right? It's an allegory for, anti-socialism or socialism, but that doesn't necessarily make it science fiction, right? Because there's the technological impact of the story and the futuristic element relative to humanity. That's just an allegory, right?
Well, it doesn't have the futuristic element relative to humanity.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I'm saying that's where that one would fall apart. It wouldn't fall apart because it's animals. It would fall apart because it doesn't have the red.
For me, because it's a story that's speculating, that is speculative about the nature of humanity, and it's trying to, as BB mentions here, the ideas and concepts, moral good versus evil, etc. So that's, to me, that is the important thing about the speculative nature of humanity, not whether or not it's about actual humans or you can draw a line or whatever. So that's my view.
Is it total geekdom, Weatherman, in a good way or a bad way?
We can agree to disagree on that if we want. All right, we get a $5 super chat. Hold on, before we go on, $5 super chat from Michael. Thank you, Michael. Like Doctor Who, alien companions, non-force aliens, and humans are substitute humans who represent the yellow circle and window to the other two. I think that's a good point. Yeah. So I'm a little more liberal, I think, in my how I interpret that bottom part of the Venn diagram.
Thanks,
thanks,
PB,
Michael. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. PB, you're not dragging us into a rabbit hole. Snob did that, and these are the questions. So this is the nature of this. And so prior to the show, I thought we were on the same page, and now it's clear that we are not. So that's fine. But I don't know. I don't know how to resolve this, and I don't know how to answer these other questions because we don't have a common understanding of this.
I think, Umbers, that's a good point you make there. That's good. Agree. Don't worry about dragging us down a rabbit hole. The show, we get bogged down. We get bogged. We'll keep going. Mr. Milquetoast likes it, though. He likes it when PB drags down the show. No, look, see, everybody's kind of agree. It's a valid point. Yeah. It's discussing these things. Okay, so I'm gonna take Cam to task here. So Cam, Arrival 2016. Have you seen that?
No,
Arrival. I've seen it.
I don't think I have.
It's set on Earth in 2016. Just has aliens who come to teach us their language, which unlocks the ability to perceive time non-linearly. No future tech per se.
Well, that is future. That is future tech relative to us.
Yeah. And the aliens come down because we helped them in like 3,000 years or something like that. So they help us now because they don't live linearly or something. I mean, I think Arrival would definitely be a science fiction story, in my view. It's not one of the ones I put up here. I probably should have, but
okay. Let me try and approach this in a slightly different way. You mentioned that there could be stories that are completely alien and da 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 da.
It's rare. Because most writers can't think that way. It's hard to do.
Okay, let me ask you this: how do you distinguish that, whatever that story is? I don't know exactly what it is, but it's completely alien, disconnected from Earth and humanity, and they have whatever technology they have, which I suppose they could tell you within that story, it's like, oh, this is future, this is new, this is something that's, you know, revolutionary, whatever, and establish all that or whatever. But I don't know. I'm having a real hard time without having a grounding in reality, how you fulfill that red element with humanity. You know, it's again, how would that be distinguishable within that story from a sci-fi setting? I'm sorry, from a fantasy setting.
Yeah, so I mean, a futuristic element relative to humanity would be, so if you had an alien a race that had different technology than we did. In some cases, it wouldn't even have to be. I wouldn't necessarily. It would have to be technology that would be higher than us. It could be some sort of technology that is totally different than us, and that's, you know, this is pretty hard. You got to be very creative to come up with these ideas. A technology that was completely different than ours, based on something else, and that would still be a futuristic element relative to us because we haven't discovered it. Is that addressing your?
No, I don't think it is, because okay, well, let me be a little more stark with it. So let's say it is this alien setting, and it's and everything in it is futuristic relative to us, and there's technology which isn't futuristic to them, is futuristic to us, and it does drive that story, and then it speculates about their society, which then you tie to having similarities. It's like, oh, well, that's like our society, therefore it's speculative, and falls into it. Well, okay, but as you, in my little example here, I knocked the legs out from under it intentionally, because it's not futuristic, or it's futuristic to us but not to them. So if you were to try and analogize that, and transfer that story to us and say it's going to be doing the same thing, well, we would disqualify in our story, you know, in our setting, because it's not futuristic to us. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it might be like saying we're telling a story, going back to the gunpowder thing. We're telling a story about how gunpowder has an effect on society, and how that speculates on the future of society, it being a completely mundane thing within our society. And I think we would disqualify it because of that. But because you're putting it in this other thing, and just because the only element being different is that it's their technology is higher than ours, then suddenly it becomes sci-fi. And that, again, that doesn't track for me.
Yeah,
that might have been very nebulous what I just said there.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the technology is different, and I don't think it's. I mean, I think that, you know, the reader of the story is our humans, are us, right? So everything that we're going to look at is, you know, starts at from our perspective. So when I look at futuristic elements relative to humanity, it's where we are now, and we're looking at it, and the writer is trying to show us something about ourselves. You know, when he's looking at some sort of moral good versus evil, something like that aspect. He's speculating about our nature by, you know, looking at technology, how it changes, how it would change us. So, I mean, we're obviously centered on ourselves. So just because, you know, this piece of technology is used by an alien race and it's normal to them, that doesn't mean that it's not, you know, it's not futuristic to us or different to us.
Yeah, but it's not affecting us. It's not. See, again,
but it doesn't matter, because it's trying to show it's still a science fiction, can still be a science fiction story.
It absolutely matters, because the nature of the change that it causes in their society based on a mundane thing is different from it's based on a new thing, or a changing thing. In that case, you could take all of the technology that we just talked about in that alien example and shift it out from magic, and it would not change their story at all, because it's not relative to us or relative to anything that we have grounding for. It's just alien, and whatever the nature of their setting is, and then you know, bringing it to, you know, that's no longer, I mean, I don't think you would mention it, say it's sci-fi when it's explicitly magic, even though it's the same moral, the same story. Everything proceeds in the same way. It's just the source. You switch out tech for fantasy. I don't know. That's just where I'm at. Is if it's you go to back to classic sci-fi, it's not about. It is these. It's always about some sort of development along a line of technology. It's not
Usually.
if it was about development in a line of magic, we wouldn't say it's sci-fi. I mean, and I could still speculate on humanity. It has to be the tech.
What did Arthur C. Clarke say
about it being
technology?
Indistinguishable? Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, it becomes indistinguishable from magic. So, to be honest, in my view, I don't really like when I look at the technological aspect of it is the least important, right? I prefer technology to magic just because of who I am. I prefer science fiction to fantasy, but that's why they're put together often because, whatever, crazy thing is going to happen, you either say, hey, it's magic, and then you usually don't bother explaining anything because people just go, yeah, it's magic, whatever. Or you say it's science fiction, and often you come up with some sort of plausible reason as to why, we can take this technology, and if we look forward in 100 years, it could be able to do this. And people go, okay, that seems reasonable. And then the people who are more logically minded will go towards that and say, yeah, I like my science fiction fantasy with a more sciencey background because it's more logical, or I like it. Well, I don't care about that. And I like, I don't care. They could just say it's magic and I'm good with that. So to me, the technology aspect of it is not as important, though I do appreciate the people like Larry Niven, for example, who take the time to put in, to think about the technology and take it to a certain, it to some certain future level. Hold on. I'm almost there. Take it to some future level, because to me, it works out better because I think, okay, we're working on cloning, we're working on AI, we're working on this technology. What happens if we do actually discover it? And these authors will say, hey, here's a bunch of problems or things how it could change society if we actually invent this technology. So to me, that is more interesting to me than magic, where you just go, magic, whatever happens, right? So that's why it appeals to me personally. And I think probably that's why it would appeal to people who like science fiction more than fantasy. But I don't think it, the actual technology is not necessarily, the key point, which is to me, like I've said, how we speculate about the nature of humanity and how this technology might affect us is the most interesting aspect of science fiction.
Okay, say choose any story, any sci-fi story that you say qualifies, due to whatever definition that you're working from, and then change that from hard to soft sci-fi. Does that change it for you? Because I know you've argued many times that the softer sci-fi things that I kind of like aren't really sci-fi. They are adventure things and such. And what I just heard you talking about is that the tech is the least important thing, but the difference between hard and soft is about realism regarding tech, right? It's really, that is the difference between hard and soft sci-fi, is whether it's realistic or not, but it's all about technology or science.
Yes, that is usually the understanding between hard sci-fi and soft sci-fi. Hard sci-fi will try to take some aspects of physics or biology or whatever, and take it to some further conclusion, which may or may not be real, right? But is plausible, is a little more plausible than saying wave my magic wand and this happens, right? You could actually have. Let me go back. There is some fantasy which actually, might try to explain the way that spells work. Like in Harry Potter, you get a little bit of that, not much, but you could actually go, oh well, this is how magic works. You could make up a story about how magic works, and then that becomes, it becomes more technical, and that could be like hard fantasy, right? I've got to mix these things together, however you want to do it, right?
Well, my understanding is that is the world of Harry Potter. It isn't
Yeah, but
mystical.
right. But what I'm saying is that, yeah, but there are some, just like there are some science fiction stories, which what I would say is something like Flash Gordon, where they don't bother to explain how the technology works. And there are fantasy stuff where they just wave the magic wand and things happen. But there are levels to that. You could have something like Harry Potter, which I think they explain it a little more about how the magic works, and it tries to follow some more sort of logical explanation. But you could go even further than that. And, you could go, an example might be, Dungeons and Dragons, RPGs where they explain much more how the magic system works. That's much more technical, more hard magic, right? This is how it works. It comes from the astral plane and we mix these things together and this happens and blah, 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 right? Whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm losing my, okay. So your question was take a story.
I'm saying if you took any story you consider to be hard sci-fi and you just shifted out the hard element to make it a soft element. So let's say it was a story that relied on some sort of propulsion system that is hard sci-fi, and you switched it out for a soft sci-fi version. Would that change the nature of, because again, you've argued that the tech is the least important thing. So I'm saying turn it into, the softest sci-fi you can have.
Me, because that's the least interesting aspect of science fiction for me personally. I like, maybe should I put it up again? I like the yellow. The yellow is what's most interesting to me. Looking at a piece of technology and going, hey, what would happen if we could do this or we could do that? How is that going to affect our society and us as humans? That's the most interesting aspect to me. But that doesn't mean that.
That's part of the reason, though, why I don't like you saying you can't. Well, I shouldn't say I don't like. I disagree with you categorizing it as such, because now you're interjecting your subjective preference into this definition as tipping the scales then. And I don't look at it like that. I'm trying to look at this as an analysis. Does it meet these things? Yes, no. And I mean, obviously my opinion on whether it meets those things is subjective, but I would disagree, like I did again at the beginning of the show. I disagreed that one is more important than the others. I just said it was rarer that you would find it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm saying, to me, that's the most interesting aspect of it. Okay. That doesn't mean that, if we're talking about, if it's real science fiction, then we are talking about a bit about my subjective opinion. But, when you have a science fiction story, by definition, you're going to have the three portions of the Venn diagram. Some will be more emphasized than others, just by the very nature of, the writer and what they write. It's going to be different. They're going to focus more on this. And, we've had discussions about whether it's, in the past, I've even been sort of, convinced that you've got our top two circles, the blue and the red, the technological aspects of the story and the futuristic elements. You could even consider those to be science fiction. There's lots of stories, when we talk about something like G.I. Joe, we kind of said, hey, yeah, that's science fiction, but that's not, the speculative nature of humanity is very, very minor in that, right? Like that's not a key aspect.
Wrong. And now you know.
So, yeah.
Well, okay, yeah, but we've made our opinions on that. Again, we could, let's say we all agreed on those things, and those are the categories. We would still have agreement or disagreement whether something falls into that or not, and that's fine. And that's what we've done with our Is It Sci-Fi, and why it's fun to do.
Yeah.
Okay, having gone through all this, there's quite a few good questions in the chat.
Yeah.
What do you think about
trouble keeping up?
What do you think about going through those, and let's just see if we can answer them kind of briefly.
Okay. All right. Where should we start?
Well, go back to where we stopped answering.
Well, I've been trying to keep up.
Let's see. What if we go to?
There's a very interesting book. It's called The Mote in God's Eye. It's about Niven wrote it again. I'm really pushing Niven stuff today. It's about an alien species, and it exists in the human realm because humans come across them. But there's this very short-lived alien species. They've got 6 fingers on one hand and 5 on the other fingers, and they reproduce very quickly and die very quickly. I think like 10 years or something like that they last. And he looks at their society and examines at it. They're very resource poor, but they reproduce so fast and die off so quickly. And the story is about the threat that this posed to Earth. Eventually it becomes that, but he examines their society very closely, and it's very interesting. And is that portion of the story about humans? No, but you can look at it and say, well, what if we were very resource poor and we had didn't live very long and reproduce very, very quickly? What would that how would that change the aspect of our society, right? Like, that's an interesting question. But anyway, let's I think we're gonna have to I just have to pick something here. All right, we'll start here with Cam. So you need future text a hard stop for you, regardless if the story is set on Earth or not. Maybe we kind of past that. Maybe. Would A Boy and His Dog qualify as science fiction based on that, Cam? I don't. What's A Boy and His Dog? I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm sorry.
That's on my list, I think, for future. That's on my list for future sci-fi movies to watch for movie night. Okay, Weatherman says these stories need to be based on commonality with us, or we wouldn't know how to take these stories. That's
kind of where I'm coming from.
But we're going to look at it from our perspective anyway. So, I think I agree with Weatherman. I have read some stories that are completely about aliens, and someone comes up with a completely alien, the way they think different than us, and those are very interesting to me because they expand your mind about how.
That's why I'm saying that takes it into allegory, or kind of some kind of parallel to humanity, because it's like, can you, when someone tells a story about humans, we're humans. We basically understand what that means. Well, I guess some people don't, because let's not get into that. But
that's why most writers would do that anyway, right?
Sure, right. You're right. What So now, if you start into an alien race, completely separated from humanity, and and even though they show you some aspects of it, it's like, do I really understand what they're all about? It's like something that for them might click and just be like, oh yeah, that's completely normal and acceptable and wouldn't uncontroversial, whatever. But because there's something in their history or their setting or their biology that makes it that. Well, how do I then relate that? It's like there's so many pieces there that I would have to understand to accept, unless it's just a little hand waving and say, well, they're kind of like us, and then at that point, well, why isn't it just us? I think that when you break away from this, you just cause all kinds of questions that muddy everything.
Well, that's what's wrong with that? That's the point. So
because it doesn't fall into a definition.
Those stories are rare. More rare, and they usually don't appear in things like movies because they're hard to understand. Mm-hmm. I just finished reading a story. Well, humans are in the story, but it was a society and it had 3 genders. There is a short story that I read a while ago, and I can't remember the details of it. I have to get it. It was from a compilation of short stories, and it had to do with some sort of alien being who was sent to. He was basically guarding the edges of his society's, their empire, and he was kind of in a ship, but the ship was partly biological, and he thought in a completely different way from us. And the writer was doing a good job of describing this and stuff. But I really had to wrap my head around it and figure out what's going on and trying to. But it does expand your mind, and it's not easy reading. You have to but they can be very eye-opening and very interesting and very different. It can be done. It's just I don't have I'll have to do some research, and maybe I could find, if this is of interest to our viewers, we could maybe find some stories to read, short stories or something like that to read that would be very much mind-bending and quite out there. But you'd have to read the stories and then discuss them like a book club type of thing, because they would be difficult to. You'd have to take time. It wouldn't be easy. PB. Yeah, I prefer. I mean, not always. I like all different types of stuff, but I kind of prefer. I kind of find it very interesting, the cerebral science fiction, and I don't think it's lowbrow versus cerebral, or soft versus hard. It's not it's not cerebral over soft so much. Soft just means, to me, hard versus soft is how much the technology is attempted to explain by the writer, or how much it's based on real world physics or biology or science, and then taken to an extreme. Because all of these things, like, I mean, Larry Niven, built a ring world. Well, that's the, okay, we might be able to do that sometime, but I'm sure it's not going to be the way that he necessarily says to, with, the stuff that he says can, do it. But he's taking, reasonable physics and taking them to an extreme. And that's kind of what they do. And they try to explain it as opposed to just, whatever. So yeah, I kind of prefer the cerebral and the moral aspects, because I like looking at, what, like I said, what would happen if we could do this? How would that affect us? How would that change us? And I think that's important because, for example, and this is why I think science fiction is important. So we are on the cusp, maybe, of, discovering artificial intelligence, cloning, all kinds of stuff. Do we need to examine how that will affect our society before we discover it, before we put it into, use? I think maybe we do, right? And that's one of the things that science fiction does, is warn us about, hey, maybe we shouldn't invent the killer robots. Maybe we should, you look at someone like Asimov. Maybe we should put 3 laws into them so they don't hurt us. That kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving.
Okay.
Philip K. Dick is widely considered a sci-fi writer. Yeah, I would agree. The story's absolutely nothing to do with technology. Well, I mean, you look at Blade Runner, right? There's androids in there. That's technology that we have not got so far to yet, especially when he wrote that. So I would say that it's got something to do with technology. Is it a key aspect of it? No. Dick is a good example, and Blade Runner is one of the movies coming up here. Blade Runner, Blade Runner isn't about the technology. It's examining, life, and Roy Batty, and about does he deserve to live? Is it moral for us to make these beings that think and then they only live for 4 years and then just shut them down like they're a machine? All that aspect. Sorry, Cam, I stepped on your toes there. Did you want to mention something?
As you're going through, I'm just thinking about the whole issue, and I'll just say it. We don't have to go into it, just so I don't forget it. And that is, I think we would need to discuss whether something that's allegorical makes, and that you can shift out the things within the allegory to be technological or not technological. Does that transfer back down to remaining sci-fi? Yeah, that would be my challenge to you, I guess. Mm-hmm. And we could talk about it in more detail later. I just wanted to spit it out there.
All right. Okay. If people in the chat want to weigh in on that aspect, yeah, go ahead. Okay. PB says Star Wars is all future tech is a definition of sci-fi. It's a definition of science anyway. It's the most inconsistent tech of all of sci-fi, but it's sci-fi by your definition. Do you want to respond?
Well, it's certainly not hard sci-fi. So we'll if I start there, it doesn't qualify, but from that, and I only mention that because I think hard to soft does, it's a different dimension, but it does influence, whether we say it's more fantasy or more science fiction.
Yeah, it can, but just because it's soft doesn't mean it's not science fiction, or because it's hard, it's
right. It does. It's not the total.
It's just an aspect of it, right?
Well, it colors
to me.
it colors what category it falls into is the way I would say.
It can.
Yeah. It's not it's not the deciding factor. It is a contributing factor.
It could become so soft that it becomes magic, for example. But yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to answer this in a different way, I think you could tell a story, where you have let's say you took just the element that we haven't read of it being futuristic in relation to us, and tell a story that wouldn't otherwise qualify as sci-fi. So just because the technology presented is futuristic relative to us doesn't mean that that's sci-fi. Futuristic is different from, well, that's not. I'm on a dead end there. That's not it. But what I said about the fact that just alone, that portion of the three-legged stool, I think definitely would not qualify. And I think Snob would agree with me on that respect. If it doesn't have the other two elements,
well, I mean, I would go. I just wanted to something you said, relative to us. I don't actually think it's relative to us. It's relative to when it was written.
That's true. That's true. We have done that. So if it was the time machine,
I read a book. I remember I was a kid in the 70s reading a story about some character that lived under the sea in some domes, and it was 2013 or 2015 or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Actually, that TV show is the same thing, and that's obviously hasn't happened. We're way beyond that, but that to me is still science fiction, just because we now,
right? Because we have, I'm sure we've argued that there are stories set in the past that have what would be futuristic to them still qualifies, even though it's not.
1984 would be a good example, right?
Yeah.
That's way past.
Yeah.
But
yeah, right. It is. There's additional caveat that it is relative to the setting in which it's there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be from today.
Yeah. So Weatherman says, but is magic or technology we know nothing about? Yes. The answer is yes. As Arthur Clarke says.
Yeah. Well, just because you can't distinguish it doesn't mean that it's not magic or is magic.
Yeah. But technology that is so advanced that we cannot distinguish it from magic.
Appears
that's
to be
what
magic,
he talks
right?
about. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Philip, I don't know that this requires an answer. Philip K. Dick was cerebral science fiction. Yeah, he's big on the speculating about the nature of humanity. That's what he's focused on. He doesn't really focus on the underlying tech.
Doesn't it rely on the tech in a lot of ways?
Well, to some aspect, but that's not really what what Dick is trying to look at, right? He's looking at the aspect of consciousness.
Right.
Taking Blade Runner, right? Yeah, there's technology in it, but what is the key point that he's focused on? He's not focused on blasting around in spaceships and blowing things up, right? He's looking at consciousness. Are these things alive? How do we treat them? Is it okay to go around and shoot them because they've escaped? They just want to live. They want to survive. What's wrong with that? Everything wants to survive, right?
But it's still technology. It's not as if the technology doesn't have impact on the story or doesn't exist in the story.
But it's not the focus, which is PB's point.
Okay, it being then that's not the criteria. Is that it is 80% of the story, for example? That now he asked about earlier if it's 1%. It's like it can if it's just 1%, it might, depending on what it is. But so that's not a hard fast rule. But so a story about androids, I would argue, does focus on the technology, even though it doesn't do it in a hard way. They're not sitting there going, excuse me, well, it works like this, but the fact that it exists.
I disagree. So,
okay.
For example, talking about Blade Runner, Dick, that is, yes,
Blade Runner is different from his writing also.
There's technological aspect, but the focus of it is the nature of humanity and how we deal with these artificial intelligences and That's the focus. Tech is in there for sure, but it's not what he's focused on.
Okay, remove the tech, and what happens to the story?
Well, it
falls apart.
Doesn't matter. It's because it's still the main focus is how do we treat these things that we build that are intelligent.
Yeah, but it's built on a foundation of the fact that we've built those
for sure.
things.
Yeah, but that's not the key thing that the author wants you.
Well, that's not the message that you're supposed to draw from it. Okay,
yeah,
but that's a little different.
It's what the focus of what the author is writing about is how we deal with these things, not we could make this technology do this cool stuff. He doesn't care about that so much. He's just using it as a thing. Bones, I think you're talking about Star Trek, right? You're talking about McCoy. Bones made a woman grow a kidney with pills. Is that magic or super science? So it would be in the start if you're talking about, like, I don't remember this episode if that's what we're talking about.
It was in Star Trek 4.
Star Trek 4 that happened in Star Trek 4?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So it's super science.
Yeah.
It's soft science fiction in the sense that we don't explain how it does it. Because it's just, we make the assumption that it's, Star Trek and they can do this kind of thing because it's the 23rd century. It's not magic. It's super science.
I would say that it's not even soft necessarily, because even though they don't explain the detailed workings of it, this goes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with the, it's not, the technology just existing without a lot of detail doesn't mean that it's hard or soft. The guy's name escapes me.
It does to me.
Astonishing Stories was the whole premise was that it's not about describing it; it's about living in it. Whereas earlier classic sci-fi that you like was about explaining these things, and it didn't, in a way that necessarily wasn't there, and he didn't want to explain it. That's the era that I think you favor, and it's not about explaining it, so much as that it is based in reality, meaning it's not about going into the details. And in Star Trek, I think it's well established at that point that level of science that could regrow an organ or something is not, a wild.
But it's
a soft sci-fi thing. It's just
hard and soft is not whether it's wild or not. It's just that, a hard science in my view, a hard science fiction writer takes the time to explain some aspect of what it is or how we got from where we are now to whatever it is that he's doing, or he uses some logical way to go there, right? Physics works like I'm a physicist. Physics works like this. Therefore, we could get to light speed through this, right? Even though we can't do it, he's like, okay, we have these theories and we don't think they work. We don't know if they work, but I'm going to assume that they work, or I'm going to take them to the next level, whatever. So there is some aspect of it, and he usually tends to explain something of it, right? If I just go to you and say, hey, take this pill, and then your liver's going to regrow, that to me that's like just like magic.
No, but it's not explaining. It's not happening in a vacuum, though. It's not just he just shows up one day and does that. Star Trek has a very long. Sure, it does. It has a very long record of that setting having an advanced level of medical science that they can, do these various things and run a scanner over you. So it's. But that you can't just take it as an isolated incident and say that that's.
No, I'm not saying it's isolated, but if it's hard. If you want to say that Bones giving a woman a pill to grow a kidney is hard sci-fi, I would agree if that in the past Star Trek had said, hey, we've got this medical technology and here's some of the way that it works. We use nanites to grow this and do this and blah, 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 this and that and all that stuff, right? I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at it I guess I'm kind of looking at it in isolation, but if all that background is there, then that would be hard science fiction. But if the character just shows up and says, I understand that we know that Star Trek is an advanced the medical system is 200 years, 300 years beyond what we have. I understand that because that's the setting. But did they explain how that happened? Or if we just go in, yeah, we're 300 years beyond what you have now, and we do this, we do that, etc., and it works. Then that would be more to the soft side. So I'm not looking at this fact that, it doesn't matter that there's been, 10 other movies or 50 other books. That might matter if it had been explained during those times. But if it hasn't, then it would still be soft. Right. That's the key aspect, I think.
Okay.
Artificial gravity, fantasy, not sci-fi. Depends how it was explained. I mean, I think that we're in a position where we could sort of see how how gravity could be. We could make artificial gravity. That seems I'm not saying we can do it, but people, I'm sure there are scientists out there who go, yeah, we could, maybe if we could do this and that. So I would tend to say that it's science fiction, but
I would say
you
it's
could
not
call it a levitation spell, and then it would be fantasy, right?
I would say that's I don't think that's a question of fantasy or sci-fi. I think that's a question of soft sci-fi or hard sci-fi, and I think it would fall into soft because I don't think we have a plausible way to do. I guess there's a theory of gravitons and such that we can't really quantify.
Well, but I would disagree. It's soft or it's hard depending on the author and who is describing it and explaining it. And if they go, "Hey, we've got artificial gravity. All right, carry on," then that's soft because it's not explaining how it works, or it's just making the assumption. But if you're going to lay out a little bit of the physics on how it happens, then that would be hard.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make it.
I think we're saying the same thing. I'm saying that neither of those is fantasy.
It doesn't necessarily make this, hard or soft doesn't make it a better story or something. Like sometimes in my stories, I don't care, I don't care for them they don't have to explain every little thing. And, some aspects they focus on, some they don't, right? There are lots of science fiction stories where there's space fighting and everybody's got artificial gravity. Nobody cares about it because they're actually more focused on some sort of science that's beyond that. But yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I'm taking too much time. Do you want to lightning round through the rest of the questions and get back to the list here?
Yeah. Sorry. DC Comics has the Owens Green hanging out of the mountain of a cosmic being along with the Wizard Shazam and the Spectre. So Arthur C. Clarke is right. So there. Yeah. There's good aspects about, the Green Lanterns would be a perfect example of, science that seems like magic to us.
Well, interestingly enough, Golden Age, Green Lantern is mystical. Silver Age is technological.
Yeah. The reader gleans something about the nature of humanity from the story, despite it not having any humans. The nature of the thing is still being transmitted, thus satisfying your requirement. Yes, that's thus satisfying my requirement, Mr.
Okay,
for sure.
The question to that, then that's where we have to discuss. Okay, would you agree that becomes an allegory by definition?
No.
Okay, then we have
no. It wouldn't necessarily be an allegory.
It is an allegory.
I mean, it could be allegorical, but that doesn't mean it's not science fiction. Still, like I don't.
No, an allegory could be science fiction.
Okay, well then it could be an allegory. I mean, it could be for sure. Yeah, you're right.
I'm saying if you're using something not human to speculate on human, then that is an allegory.
Okay, sure. All right. Awesome one. So fresh, so clean. I'm not sure what that refers to.
Thank you.
That's a new welcome. I don't think we've seen you before. Maybe not. Can you explain Christopher Nolan, the Prestige movie about magic, sci-fi or movie or thriller or both? I don't remember the Prestige.
I was in a discussion about this in which I admit I didn't remember much about it recently. I'd have to watch it again because I don't remember it that well either.
All right. Q2, we have to talk about that offline. We will all agree that the circles need to be a part of the story to be sci-fi. Weatherman, for me, generally, yes. However, I have given in to Cam when I think the top two circles, and I'd say something like I mentioned, G.I. Joe, Flash Gordon, those kind of classic pulp sci-fi stuff didn't focus much on the speculative nature about humanity. They were mainly, sort of Western cowboy style adventure movies with a sci-fi backdrop. But I have been convinced to say, okay, well, they're kind of sci-fi, but they don't have that. They're not very big on that bottom aspect. But
I say yes, they okay do have to at least 1%. They can't completely lack it. But again, whether you put that in there in one of those categories or not is somewhat subjective. So okay.
Telsa makes it sci-fi. Bowie makes it magic. I don't get one on that one. Bowie is a Tesla. The Prestige is an awesome film. It's science fiction. There really isn't magic in it. Telsa's machine is a teleportation device. All right. Well,
spoilers.
I see the Prestige now. All right, I'm gonna have to see it.
Well, why bother now?
Well, I got to see the details. Are you sure Tesla doesn't come late in the sci-fi twist is coming in? Okay, well, you guys are spoiling the movie for me now. In truth, there's enough wiggle room in your pro-offer definition to forestall much need to argue.
If that's the case, then there's no reason in ever having these discussions, because
that's the whole point.
If we don't have a basis that we can agree on, then there's no reason to have the discussion, because
the point of a definition is to have it wide enough so that you can never be wrong.
That's your definition.
The Prestige doesn't have magic, it's all tricks and showmanship. Oh, is that the magical? No, that's not the magic movie where the four. That's not that one. Tesla Machines Teleporter. Okay, I'm gonna have to see this movie now. Casting Bowie.
It's real dumb at the end.
Casting. Okay, you guys are talking about dystopia. I'm gonna skip Prestige 2 with David Bowie. All right. Boy and His Dog, World War II, 20 years later, telepathic dogs mentoring their less smart human companions. Oh, that sounds
sci-fi to me, just off the
interesting.
Off the bat. Go ahead.
Is it fiction? Yeah. Does it have science in it? Yeah. Then it's science fiction. Well,
no.
I would say it's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Because we want to have a show. Forget the author wrote a short story considered to be the shortest. I'm gonna have to dig into some of my short stories. Story time stopped yesterday. Interesting. PB promises next time he won't ask any questions. Yes, we're gonna block him from now on.
Yeah, that's right. Get lost, PB.
But Mr. Milktoast disagrees. Look, we're here to have this show is about having discussions about science fiction. It's supposed to be honestly a bunch of people, a bunch of nerds around the water cooler talking about sci-fi. That's what I wanted to do when I made the show. So if we get distracted, I don't care.
The reality is it's about how much capacity a particular topic has for sort of Snob to wave his hands and say, well, blah, 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 and pretend like he's right.
I am right. I don't need to pretend. Don't do that. Your input added to the discussion. Yes, guys, we like the discussion. That's why we do the show. We want people in the chat. If I could do it and it would be, reasonable, I'd put everybody in the everybody would talk.
The only thing I dislike about this is Snob.
Yeah, me too. iRobot hides the flaw in the 3 laws. Yeah, that's bothered me about the movie iRobot, is because it's the complete opposite of all of Asimov's books. Every time Asimov writes the book and the robots, something goes wrong with them, it's not because they go crazy and want to kill everybody. It's because there's some sort of problem with their programming. Like the humans have made a mistake, not the robots. It's totally the opposite. Sure, I can think for themselves. What we have doesn't. I would agree now. But who knows what will happen. Many creatives of AI say they feel compelled to create AI as if it's out of their control. Really? Interesting.
Uh-oh.
It's like as if they're being controlled by something. It's not so much if a given aspect can be switched out for something non-sci-fi, but rather if that given element is presented as sci-fi. I agree with that too. And that's why I kind of disagree with Cam when he's like, "Oh, switch it out." I said, "It doesn't matter." Final Fantasy VI was combined with a system called Magitech using magic and science. I don't know much about the Final Fantasy series. We have simulation intelligence. It only imitates intelligence, not self-aware. I agree. I don't think what we have is AI yet.
I'm not sure we even have simulated intelligence.
I don't even know. I think it's pretty suspicious, the whole thing.
It's the million monkeys typing on a million keyboards kind of thing.
That's my kind of thought of as well for now, anyway. Vern is the godfather of science fiction. Yeah, too many people forget that. That's why I don't like general use AI. My feeling is that the various things that are AI right now aren't really AI. They're they're those language models, and all it is a marketing ploy. Somebody is like, but 4 or 5 years ago, they go, "Oh, we got these large language models. You know what? If we want to trick investors to invest, let's call it AI, and then they're going to give us a whole ton of money."
Yeah, and they're trying to backfill it into actually creating the real thing.
Well, they're trying to create AI, but what they do is they have all this. It's a marketing ploy. They have these large language models, which they've been slowly improving on throughout the years, and they've been making slow progress. But but someone came and said, you know what? If we call this AI, we get a bunch of finance bros, and they'd probably give us a ton of money. And
yeah, it's a great buzzword. What's happened.
Yeah, they've got a ton of money. They've got 10 times, 100 times more. Governments are all like, we got to get AI before the Chinese do. Oh my God!
And it's inflating chip manufacturers to ridiculous levels.
Yeah, follow the money. It's a bunch of people making. Oh, now my company that makes large language models, I just called it AI, and now I've got 100 times the amount of money to play with. It's awesome.
Right. Good. I'm glad we could agree on one thing.
Yeah, there's a turtle lying on its back. You're not helping. Yeah. Shannara uses magic but delves into tech without revealing it is tech, at least the first machine reveal. Are these the sort of Shannara series? I read the first bunch of them when I was a kid, way back. I don't remember everything coming into tech. I'm going to have to check. I haven't read the later stuff. I just, the original Sword of Shannara and stuff, some of those. All right. Prime Directive, for sure. Is dick soft or hard?
James.
Yeah. Oh, so silly. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, sci-fi or not? Look at this. Madman's trying to put us on the spot. Do we look at that one, Cam? What did we say?
I think we did talk about that.
Sci-fi,
right? But that's one of those examples of relative to the time,
right?
It's futuristic. So yes.
Lucas did the same in Star Wars. Tech was old, used, beat up, and normal, not the focus.
Which is why it's not one of the reasons why it's not sci-fi.
It's not the focus. It's just sort of there. And, and in fact, I think Star Wars it seems to be, except Andor did something of that. But notice in Star Wars, we never see anybody building anything, inventing anything new. And they're always like ripping off parts and putting like another old part on there. It's like a society in technological decline in some aspects of it.
I mean, they do have some advantage. It's more like, it's not, there's no evolution in it it's just kind of rearranging things, right? It's like they have new starfighters. It's like, now we do this, or it focuses this, but it's not like anything was. It's like the pieces are all there, and they're just assembling them in different ways.
Yeah, and we didn't, and a lot of the times it's not till much later where they start having new TIE fighters and building them, right? Like later on in the, and then if you go back and you watch like the prequels, they'll have things like there's the part where the guy gets caught in the ray shields in the third movie. Oh, ray shields, and you don't see them. You don't see shields anywhere else.
That's not true. Ray shielding was mentioned in the very first movie, which is why they had to use proton torpedoes to destroy the Death Star, because it was ray shielded.
Okay, well, I must have missed that. All right,
that's right. Listen to General Dodonna's briefing again.
My mistake.
Sorry, let me make one more comment on that. The reason. Like we've argued before that just having the straight line thing, it's like, you have a car engine. Well, now you have a car engine with more horsepower. That's not sci-fi necessarily, right? And that's the same kind of thing with Star Wars. Okay, go ahead.
With tech from any Phil K. Dick story, it's the same story, same focus. Tech is a background tool. Usually a story. Stories don't fall apart because the tech isn't the point. I would agree.
Okay, go ahead.
Dick focuses on the speculative nature about our humanity, good and evil. Should we be doing this or not?
Yeah. Okay. That's the thrust of the story, in which you could build around a different thing, but he built it around this thing. If you remove that technology, that story does not exist in that form. You would have to do it differently. And so, no, I disagree with that. That I don't think you could just pull out, a component wholesale and say that it just goes forward. It doesn't. You cut the leg out from something, it doesn't stand, it collapses. They could, if you were to say, could he have told that story without technology? Yes, probably. You could make some kind of substitution for that, or a different kind of technology, maybe. But then, do you call that sci-fi? Then what if it was magic? These things were magic constructs, and they weren't. Would you then call that sci-fi, or would you call that science fantasy, or would you just call it fantasy?
You can write a
That
fantasy
that's
story
actually
that speculates about the nature of humanity.
okay. Well, maybe maybe we just stumbled on the perfect example here. If you had that Blade Runner story, what?
Fantasy doesn't usually do that, but
okay, it doesn't matter if he usually
could.
does it. We're talking about an example here that we can construct and evaluate. If you took Blade Runner and you removed the technology and replaced it, let's just talk about the artificial people, the androids, and removed it from being a scientific technology to being someone can conjure these beings out of the ether, and everything else lines up the same. You've removed the technology and replaced it with magic. Is it sci-fi still?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well, it's not got a science background anymore. It's
okay.
fantasy.
So your answer would be no, then, right?
The reason that we don't believe in magic. Magic. Most people believe magic's not real, but science is real. So we relate better to the fact that when people say, "Hey, maybe at some point we could build an android that would be just like a human being," and people go, maybe we could. Who knows? Look at how we go. Yeah. And so then it behooves us to examine these moral questions as to whether or not they would be life and how should we treat them, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So answer the question. If you took the technology out that the story revolves around, even PB saying it's not the focus. I understand that it's
not
the backdrop.
I agree with PB's point. It's not the focus.
It's the foundation, though, in which you tell the story. It is a piece of that story. But let's say you can replace it. We just speculated you could replace it with magic. As I said, again, without getting into the nitty gritty of it, but just generally. And my question to you is it still sci-fi? It's got the same messaging, the same. It's about the human story, as PB is saying in this later message, and you've got that speculative nature about humanity, but technology is removed and replaced with magic. Is it sci-fi?
No, it's a fantasy story speculating about the nature of humanity. It's not as impactful because people don't believe in magic and they don't see how it goes.
Yeah,
but you put it in a science aspect, then people will be like, okay, well, this means more. This means more to me. But you could do a fantasy story where you examine the human condition, and people could go, it's wrong for us to treat these things this way because.
I agree. I think that's. I don't say. I'm not trying to say it would invalidate the impact of the story. Mm-hmm. You guys both seem to be on the same page. You're saying the focus is this, so the technology doesn't matter. And I just asked you the question.
It's not as important.
And you okay. The yes or no answer though is that it is no longer sci-fi. Because you removed it. Because those elements have to exist.
Yeah, but every story about the nature of humanity isn't science fiction.
I didn't say it was. I'm asking you, when you make that substitution, it changes the definition.
Yeah, because you need some of the other aspects too. If you just write a story about the speculative nature of humanity, that does not make it science fiction. That is a key element of many science fiction stories, and it allows us to look into the future and how we should act towards things. But there's lots of stories that speculate about human nature. That's one of the key, aspects of much storytelling. When we read about anything.
My point is to prove that the technology and the other elements that we were talking about, if you pull those out, you have just agreed that it is no longer science fiction. It doesn't mean it's an unvaluable story, not meaningful or anything else. It just means that it shifts it from being science fiction into being not science fiction. And you've agreed with that.
Of course. I mean, I've said from the beginning, when we started this show, that these three elements are, the things that we feel are necessary for science fiction. And I've allowed, in some cases, the speculative nature to be very, very minimal and still be considered science fiction. I'm
Okay,
saying that the speculative nature is the most important to me.
Yeah, I
and that's what makes it real science fiction.
I'm discussing. I guess I'm addressing more what PB was saying. That I think his argument was basically that the technology it doesn't really matter in that it's not the point. It's not the focus. It's not dependent on it.
Yeah, well, it's not the point.
It is dependent on it.
Well, it's not the point of what Dick is trying to say. Dick is trying to talk about.
Yeah, but I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with that.
This aspect of humanity, and he's using science fiction to demonstrate that and make us think about it.
Right.
That's his key point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Gernsback. We talked about Gernsback 2 weeks ago when we did Pulp Sci-Fi.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked quite a bit about it. Fair enough.
Yeah, and he was answering a question I had there about. I was trying to think about Campbell, and Campbell's the one that was like, no, that
John Campbell
speculate, talking about how the technology comes to be or whatever isn't it. He was more like, this is the world, this is the setting, this is the science there is. And even though he did like hard sci-fi, it wasn't. We talked. I forget exactly what he said, but it wasn't about creating that world. It was about presenting that world or just having it as the backdrop.
Well, when we talked about it, John Campbell as the publisher of his thing, he got guys like Asimov and he pushed those writers, and they wrote a different style of science fiction where Asimov, for example, where the galactic civilization was a character in the story that he was writing. It was much more focused on that, where before it was kind of more pulp, what I call pulp focused, which would be your Buck Rogers and your Flash Gordons, which would be kind of like adventure stories with a science, with ray guns instead of 6-shooters. So, right. So that's quite a big difference in the line of how science fiction is being written. And if you look, if you read Asimov's, Foundation and look at, Buck Rogers and see the very, very different types of stories.
Yeah. Let me address something. PB said Cam needs the focus to be tech for it to be sci-fi, and he disagrees. No, that you're misconstruing what I've said. I said you can't remove the tech from it. And nowhere in the definition says that it needs to be the focus of it. The story doesn't need to be about the technology and what it does. As we've agreed, you could have stories that do focus on, the message of, speculation, things like that. I'm saying you can't just remove it and say that the story stands without it. These are all elements of the story. And whether you value one more, like, Snob has said, he values. Turn this around. If you said Snob says the focus needs to be on the speculation for it to be sci-fi, and you disagree. Well, no, he prefers that that's what he prefers in it. He's not denying that the other pieces are part of it.
Yeah.
Even though we are disagreeing on one part of that definition at this point. I think we all still agree that these three elements, for the purpose of our definition, do have to be part of it. You can't just take one out and claim it still meets the definition.
Right. Okay, so Greg C says, some stories I've considered hard sci-fi got the science wildly wrong once I learned more. So current knowledge plays a big part of the perception. I'm not sure if what you're saying, I could be wrong what you're saying. So I somewhat disagree with that. They can get the science wildly wrong, but as long as they're sort of focused on, a way a certain science works. Oh, it works this, and it's sort of somewhat reasonably logical, and they explain some of it. Then I would say that would be hard, because what's going to happen is any story that we take, in 100 years, some guy's going to explain some science, and we're going to figure out, no, he's right out to lunch.
Yeah, what might be hard science today can turn into soft.
Well, it's still hard.
Guess, but...
It's still hard because that's how it's written and the time it was written in. Just because it's proven wrong doesn't mean that it's
that's true. To be hard, it doesn't need to be correct. Yes. It has to have the direction of being correct, though. It can't just be wholesale not correct.
Yeah, somewhat reasonable, and you have to come up with some sort of somewhat logical reason as to why it works.
Well, for example, you can't just say, the spaceman goes and lands on Venus and walks around with his little bubble helmet, right? I mean, that's because we already know that that's wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Oh no, I'm not gonna. Cam, I'm not gonna get. I'll let you what you say. But then most of these stories can be found in Project Gutenberg. Okay, I'm not sure what that refers to. Watching Explorers, science fiction or fantasy? What do you know? The Explorers are. Udal, good to see you. It's like your first comment. Do you know the Explorers?
No.
All right, I have to write it down. Me neither. I have to write it down.
See, we're imbeciles.
The speculative nature of humanity is more of an aspect of hard science fiction rather than sci-fi overall. I would agree in that it tends to be more in the hard science fiction, but it doesn't have to be.
You've just argued that you could have a speculative nature of humanity which is completely devoid of sci-fi.
Yeah. And you can. It tends to be more in the harder aspect, but it doesn't have to be. You could make the argument that, Philip K. Dick, Blade Runner, is, he doesn't focus on how you could say that, actually his story it's very much about the speculative nature of humanity. However, it's not really hard science fiction because he doesn't spend a lot of time, talking about how, the science of androids are created or any of that stuff. So, you could say, to me, those two things are not necessarily related, but I would agree that usually the harder science fiction guys tend to do it, but yeah. I think Awesome One is trying to distract us. I thought everyone has seen The Prestige. It's almost 20 years. I haven't seen it. No, I have to put it on my list and see it. That's why I'm here. I love the discussion as much as the content. Good. I Robot. All right. Michael, I'm not sure. Awesome One. What? Okay.
That's probably swearing.
Is that swearing? Oh no. Tech bubbles are a life cycle now. AI means all income. I think so. It seems to be. All your bases belongs to us. So much money turned Bill Gates against green energy. We have expert systems, not AI. Sci-fi AI is really AGI, autonomous general intelligence. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I'm thinking that I don't really see that it's AI yet, but who knows? Star Wars is a representation of World War II and limited tech. Yeah, there's some aspects of that in there. Spaceships, robots, shields, anti-grav. Star Wars is science fiction. PB disagrees.
Okay, but okay. Now again, he's welcome to.
I thought I was making good progress.
Well, I'm just saying.
Damn it.
We have definitively disagreed with that in regards to Star Wars, of it being science fantasy, not sci-fi.
Yeah.
So clearly, PB is working from a different definition than we are, which is fine.
He doesn't agree. That's fine. Meek and Walk will resolve humanity's moral compass once they steal their dad's care again. All right. Cam and I disagree completely. Every Philip K. Dick story isn't about the tech. It's about the human story. Tech isn't the focus. I haven't read a lot of
that is
stuff,
misconstruing my definition. It's not you're missing my viewpoint there, PB.
Golems would be the fantasy droids, which is why I mentioned them. The fact that these would-be definitions use the word relative as liberally as they do makes them static enough to allow most anything that one might traditionally consider to be sci-fi. Yes.
Well, see, that's
he's found our plan. He's found my secret plan.
If you can define anything as sci-fi, then nothing is sci-fi.
Yeah. Man in High Castle, which we've talked about. Alternate Earth, Germany wins the war. People can travel between the worlds, remove the portal the Germans built, and the story doesn't change at all.
Well, okay, so
we're gonna go back. All right.
The people did move between worlds without any apparent technological assistance, right?
Well, no, didn't they open the hole with technology?
Well, they in the story they did. Mengele, I think it was one. At least in the I didn't read the stories. I saw the TV show, which I think is pretty close, but maybe not. They did use technology to create a portal that was able to transfer through. So, but I don't think that's how everyone did it, though, because
some of them seem to.
some of them just did. They just did it.
It's like they moved their mind from point A from
right
between worlds somehow.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
but we haven't defined whether Man in the High Castle. There, I don't believe anyone ever said, "Oh, Philip K. Dick wrote only sci-fi." So, is Man in the High Castle sci-fi or not? Well, I don't know. I guess you could discuss it and see.
I probably lean towards yes.
It's pretty, maybe, but it certainly, like you said, it is. Okay, taking his example, if you did take the portal out that the Germans built, which is technology, and you have the people that are doing it, well, by what means are they doing it? I don't know. Maybe it was in the book or I forgot or something, but they're somehow via their minds transferring between worlds. Is this a psionic power? Is it somehow scientifically bad? I don't know. So
wasn't clear in the TV show.
Right. Very cool TV. I recommend the show, by the way.
Making artificial humans is called homunculi in magic. I thought a homunculi was just a perfectly sized small human, as opposed to like a midget or dwarf, which are, they all have some aspects of them.
So bigger. A baby?
No. Well, no, because babies' heads are way bigger than their body.
Oh, true.
It would be like if you shrunk a person. I thought that's what a homunculi is, but maybe I'm wrong. In real life, we thought diseases were related to the supernatural or curse or lack of blessings before the discovery of microscopic, not knowing it was germs, virus, etc. Yeah, good point. For sure. Star Wars is a parable story from Tacticus, set in a spacefaring setting. I would say it's. I'm not familiar with that story, but I would say it's just basically Joseph Campbell, hero's journey, just perfectly, that. But Cam needs the focus to be tech for it to be sci-fi. I disagree. Golems and homunculi. Full Metal Alchemist was where I heard about the homunculi first. Okay, Michael is singing in the chat. Right on. The Hallmark channel speculates about the human condition. Yeah, it does. All about romance and stuff. Awesome one is just trying to derail the conversation. Right on. Both are artificial. A homunculus would be more intelligent generally. Oh, really? Because I thought a homunculus was just would be a perfectly formed, tinier, smaller human. You enjoyed both seasons of MILF Manor? Right on.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to read every comment.
I don't have to read everyone. Can you teach tech jockey without a horse? If the plot is about science knowledge or capability impacting the human condition, it's sci-fi. If it's a futuristic setting normalized to the characters, then it is in the genre of the character's tale.
Okay.
I would say that if it's a futuristic setting, that still is one aspect of science fiction normally as well.
Yeah, I think I generally agree with what Hudal's saying here because, again, like we were saying, and this is the opposite of like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, right? It's like the technology in that wouldn't be sci-fi to us necessarily today.
It was at the time of the writing.
Right, exactly. But the same would be if you're going in the future. If the science is mundane to them, the technology is mundane to that setting, then it's not sci-fi or tends to not be. Or would be weak in that. And that's, again, why I think that red area, I think it's not being properly applied here for the reason Hudal is saying.
Yeah, I don't agree the mundaneness of it, whether it's, most technology is mundane to the society it's in, right? Like it's, when you write a story about the impact of
no, that's not, you're mistaking what you're saying. It's a story set in 2500 that has technology. Yes, the technology is mundane for 2500. It's not mundane for us. Just like when the Verne stories were written, it was futuristic to them, the people receiving the story.
Yep.
So that's why we're saying it's not speculative if it's already there. Going back to the other element of it. So that's why it has to be. It's very difficult, let's say, extremely difficult to be separated from grounding in the receiver of the story. It at a minimum creates a huge burden for the storyteller, in my opinion.
All right. We're learning a lot.
Greg C., thank you.
We're learning a lot about the difference between homunculi and golems and all that stuff. One has a mind and the other one doesn't. Golems are robots, homunculus are androids. All right, it's more than I knew. Kids and space explorers. Okay. All right. PB. Is Frankenstein horror or sci-fi? RoboCop is Frankenstein with the horror removed. Story doesn't fall apart if you remove the tech. First, let's say there's a key difference between RoboCop and Frankenstein. Frankenstein is not a person. It's a being made up of parts of other people. RoboCop is still a person, but he's lost a lot of his pieces and has to have pieces added. So it's still a person that is added to, as opposed to Frankenstein, which is a completely made up person. Like he didn't exist before. That's a key. I think that's kind of a key aspect of it. But go ahead, Cam. I think we talked about Frankenstein already, way back.
Yeah, we did list it as being at least proto sci-fi, and I think it is gothic horror, but I think it's also sci-fi, and he is using technology unknown to the people of that time, and really unknown to us too, to create this new life, which then drives the story. So if you were to remove his means, his technological manipulations that led to the creature being created, then that story wouldn't exist because you wouldn't have the creature.
I think we both agreed that we're using this diagram too, that Frankenstein was sci-fi.
Yeah, we did have a whole episode. Well, not the whole episode, but we did discuss it. It was.
If you go look back, it was key. We spent some time talking about it. Yeah. All right. Let's just. Are you sure the horror was removed? Future's pretty scary. I'm not sure what that you're referring to there. Any law officer has been experimented on is the story of RoboCop, which the sci-fi removed. A good story doesn't need background. 3-hour show. We're reaching Jason levels. Yes, we are. And people keep talking in the chat. I can't get through them. Multiverse of that show seemed to add an add-on to keep the show going. He's talking about Men in High Castle, I think. Not sure. Or maybe Explorers. I haven't seen this bit. I'm gonna have to see it. PB thinks you're awesome.
Yay.
Homunculus, classic Doctor Who in the 70s. Greg likes the show. Good. Someone liked it. That's good. My favorite.
That's unusual.
We got to slide 5 of 23.
You know what that means?
Homunculus
more content.
Was a racist stereotype. I didn't know what that.
Nice job. We just racist. You didn't
we even said it. Yeah. Star Trek technology is mundane to its inhabitants. Are we talking in world or from our real world perspective? From our world, I think, as we all. Mundanes are expendable. My telepaths are not. Bester. Is that a future episode? I haven't heard him say that. Maybe don't spoil it. We're using the rubric of real world perspective because it's from the readers, watchers' perspective. Frankenstein is basically a flesh golem. I would kind of agree. Then I fall back. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, Mr. Melktos, no way we can make it through the rest of the slides. Translation, don't keep going. It's getting long.
I know. I'm trying to get through the chats. That's what you said. 2 more. This is almost it.
I'm representing what Mr. Melktos was saying.
I kind of agree. Then I fall back on if it's a real world perspective, it's science fiction. It's a book or a TV or film about tech on the other world or time. By definition, it's sci-fi lists. I'm just slow, which I am slow to admit. All right. Well, this topic needs a part 2. Yeah. We're not gonna. I'm not. Look, we're at 2:30. I'm not going to the rest of the slides. We can hold off. The idea is to talk about. To talk about this stuff. We don't need to. We don't have to get.
Yeah, people actually had good comments.
People enjoyed it. I'm glad.
Especially the ones.
Quick, everyone spam the chat.
I don't think I would say most of them disagreed with me.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
There are snobs, right? That's why they're here.
I guess.
Okay, we've got to the end of the chat. I think we just want to wait.
See, this is where you bait them. You're like, oh, you want us to keep going? Well, $5 super chat.
Hi, what did I miss? Oh yeah, great. Have you been there the whole time, Neutron, or did you just come in? Is that a joke? The chat just derailed the whole show.
I'm not. So we have excellent chat comments for the most part. Sometimes we have not many comments at all, but typically when we get comments, they're insightful and engaged. So that's what we like. We love that. And hey, we just demonstrated we could go on with no content. Just say one thing and let the chat go, and we'll just comment on the chat. Which Snob likes to be lazy that way.
That's right. Who needs to come up with a? Why should I waste my time trying to come up with a topic?
Mm-hmm.
And that's Cam doesn't do it. He makes me do it all the time. He's like, I'm not doing it. I'm busy. All right, we got a $2 super chat from Michael. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Pigs in space, science fiction. Cam.
Yes, I'm gonna say yes.
Technology, yes, it's because they're in space and they're on ships.
And the Muppets are always hard hitting with
futuristic element relative to humanity. I mean, they're in space, they're in technology. Speculative nature about humanity, maybe a little weak on that. I think it would depend on the story. I'd have to look at the specific story. Doesn't everyone drink their tea with their pinky raised? All snobs do. After show on Discord, yeah, I'll be there. We're getting a little late because I'm gonna try wrapping it up. When I read and or watch, I go back and forth. I am viewing from the real world or putting myself in the sci-fi world. My brain works funny like that.
That's good immersion.
Yeah. Okay. I think they're just gonna keep going if I. So we're gonna end it here and try to. I'm not gonna go through any more slides. So we ended off at Star Trek. I had a total of 20 or Star Wars. Sorry, I had a total of 23 slides I wanted to talk about. But I'm glad we talked about this topic. The whole point of the show is to talk about these sort of things. So I don't really care if we stick to what we are supposed to be doing. Now the question is, should we do this next week? A part 2 to this next week, or should we push it off? Because I want to do. All right. Well, you know what? We'll do it next week because Cam doesn't want to do the topic yet. We can push that off a little bit. All right.
No. I want to do it. Not at all.
Not at all. It's a great idea. All right. Okay. So next week we'll do part 2 of this. We'll bring this back. And then I want to do this topic. I want to have a debate about AI. Cam will take the negative side, AI bad, and I will take AI good, and we'll debate it. So, I mean, let us know what you guys think about that idea. Cam is as you can see, he's very resistant. I think it's a great idea, but he thinks it sucks. So, yeah. All right. Well, anyway, next week we will do this part 2 of this show. And then the week after that is back to movie night, which we will be doing. Cam, what movie are we doing? Do you know?
Planet of the Apes, I think it ended up with.
Planet of the Apes, the 1967 Charlton Heston classic one, the good one. Great movie. Looking forward to it. It's awesome. We'll talk about it. So that's the next 2 shows. And then after that, who knows what we'll do. But I would like to do the debate one. But maybe, it's hard to get Cam to do things he doesn't want to. He's very difficult to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So you
get what you pay for, buddy.
He's stubborn. You know what he's like. Try to get him to do something he doesn't want to do. It's like trying to get a kid to eat broccoli.
I love broccoli. I would like to note real quick before we head out and end the show. very soon without any other segments, is that Wednesday we have the season finale of episode 2 or season 2. Oh, okay. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You good? Go ahead.
Final episode of season 2, Babylon 5, The Fall of Night at 11 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday.
And good. And we've made some decisions about that show as well. So I wanted to just lay those out just to give everybody's heads up. I haven't put them on the channel yet, but after that, we're going to have our annual, well, not annual, but end of season wrap up show just wrap up. Sorry. We're going to talk about, we'll get all the get together. Well, it's very similar to the one we did after season 1. And we'll have a little, all of our guest panelists, we'll try to get them in at the end to answer a few questions, talk about stuff as well. All our, special guest panelists, Dean, Madman, various people. And talk about that. And then after that, we've made a decision. The next show after that is normally we would start into season 3 right away, but that is apparently American Thanksgiving. You guys are having Thanksgiving a little bit late. How are you going to dig out your turnips out of the snow? I don't know how you're going to do that. But apparently it's American Thanksgiving. It's a Wednesday right before it. So we threw it back and forth. Should we have the show or not? Maybe there'll be a lot of people, but maybe people will be busy traveling or getting ready for Thanksgiving. So what are we going to do, Cam? We're going to have a what? Do you know what we're going to do?
No.
Okay, great. Yeah, way to grab the ball and go with it. We're going to have a call-in show where we're going to talk about, we'll get the panelists on, as many of them that are available. We will have people come in, and you could come in. We'll put the link in the chat. Come in, and you can talk about Babylon 5, Season 2, or even Season 1 if you want. We're going to try to keep away from spoilers if we can, but we'll have a sort of a relaxed call-in show, talk about Babylon 5, whatever you want to talk about, just because of the holiday. And then after that, the week after, what happens after that, Ken?
Season 3?
Season 3, we might as well jump right into it. That will be December, whatever the Wednesday is, December 3rd, after the 26th. So right after Thanksgiving, boom, into season 3, which apparently is a good one. I understand. No, maybe not. The most boring season. A call-in show is this 1995. No, it's 2025, but it's still a call-in show. That's kind of, it's kind of cool. Yeah. Madman's got his show on Monday night too, so be aware of that. We're still talking about homunculi. Yes, Neutron. Yeah, the show was very boisterous and got derailed fairly quick, discussing other aspects of science fiction. But I think it was a good one. I think everyone enjoyed it. They're still here, 12 minutes, and I'm still talking. All right. So, anything else, Cam? I've laid out a couple of the next Babylon 5 shows, a couple of these shows. I think we're good to go. Yeah.
A question is Jeff still in the chat?
Jeff, are you still in the chat?
Oh, he was up there. Yeah, he was only a couple up there. Oh, nope, that's it. Gotta go. See you later.
Okay, well, wait a second. After party, we're gonna have the after party. I'll jump in the after speakeasy there in the chat in the Discord if anybody wants to jump in. Jeff and I usually jump in. If anyone wants to jump in, hang out for a little bit, at least till I'll go for 20 minutes because then it'll be midnight. Time for me to turn into a pumpkin. So I'll do that, and that'll be about it. Okay. I think that's it for the show. Nothing else. Oh, wait, I almost forgot about something. I forgot about the jokes. We got to do jokes, Cam. You can't forget the jokes, right? It's your favorite part of the show.
I wish I could.
See, look, Jeff remembers jokes. All right.
I hate you. Go ahead.
All right. These ones are all right. Let me try these ones here. All right. These are just sort of general jokes. What do a tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common, Cam?
I don't know. What do a tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common?
They're both parasites. Get it? Parasites.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Get it?
mm-hmm.
Get it? Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
This one is more of an aspect for me here. I thought the dryer was shrinking my clothes. Turns out it was the refrigerator all along.
Yeah, that's a good one.
My wife says I should do lunges to stay in shape. That would be a big step forward.
I had to think about that for a second.
Singing in the shower is fun until you get soap in your mouth. Then it becomes a soap opera.
Okay, this is going to be the best joke session I think we've ever had.
Okay, last one, and we'll say goodnight to everybody. I'm afraid for the calendar, its days are numbered.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Good one.
It's a delivery.
All right. With that, I think you can't ever top that. So we could.
This is our last joke before segment.
That. So anyway. Thanks everybody for who asked for the jokes. But it will be never again.
Just Jeff. All right. Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming out. Remember Wednesday. Wednesday will be big. A couple days from now. Big last thing in the show. I've seen the show already. I was not. I mean, there's some good reveals, but I wasn't exactly completely surprised because I kind of suspected that what happened might happen. But yeah. Anyway, we can talk about it on Wednesday. Should be good. Be a gooder. All right. Mm-hmm. That's it for the show. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming out. Hope you enjoyed it. Night night.